See you tomorrow.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. After a thundery start to the weekend, the second half offers something a little bit calmer for us all. There is still quite a damp, dreary evening to come, particularly for areas of Scotland. Some areas of rain still persisting, but generally come midnight they will be turning lighter and patchier in nature. Elsewhere there will be some clear spells as well, a touch of hill and coastal fog in places, but it's not going to be too chilly by any means. Temperatures comfortably in double-digit figures for many of us as we start off Sunday morning. Some of that rain still will be lingering across the Northern Isles first thing tomorrow morning, and we are also going to see another area of rain just slip its way into the northwest of Scotland, particularly for the Outer Hebrides and later on into the Highlands, parts of Argyll and Bute, that will also arrive into Northern Ireland later on in the morning. So a little damp here, but certainly the rain will be lighter and less intense than what we've seen around today. Some sunny spells developing across England and Wales, but there will be a scattering of showers wanting to pop up across central regions, and those will slowly push their way towards the southeast as we head into the afternoon. So can't rule out the odd shower here, but generally a nice slice of sunshine developing for areas in between. And with lighter winds as well tomorrow, it will be feeling relatively pleasant where you do see that sunshine. Highs a little down compared to the temperatures we've seen today, but still a very comfortable 22 to 24 degrees Celsius. Generally around high teens for Scotland and Northern Ireland. As we head into the new week, we're watching as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. Slow progress though, so it's still allowing these weather fronts to just skirt across the far north, and so there will be some further outbreaks of mainly light rain again for areas of Scotland, and then a bit of a brisk breeze here. But for the rest of the UK, with that high pressure beginning to influence us, there will be a good amount of sunny spells arriving once again, and temperatures not faring too badly. It's the sunshine that will become increasingly lengthy as we head into the rest of this week, and temperatures continuing to climb mid to high 20s for some of us. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camila Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camila Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
From the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Happy Father's Day. The Prime Minister U-turns on grooming gangs.
A national inquiry will be launched into the abuse scandal.
Well, it comes just months after Sir Keir Starmer described calls for an inquiry as jumping on a far-right bandwagon.
But the big question now is, will the victims finally get the answers they want and some action?
Tensions soar as RAF jets are deployed to the Middle East amid fears of an all-out war. It comes as multiple casualties have been reported in Israel in the latest wave of missile strikes from Iran.
Building British. The government is going to tell companies they must prioritise workers from the UK if they want to win contracts to build roads and hospitals and power plants.
6 robbers and 3 tons of gold. Money like that will end up in surprising places with surprising people. Ready?
Accuracy or artistic freedom? Critics hit out at the storyline of the new TV series about the Brinksmat robbery. We're asking, should TV actually stick to the facts?
Good morning. I've earned the right to do whatever I want. Rory McIlroy reflects on his recent media blackouts as he confirmed he doesn't even want to be at the US Open. That's despite making the cut at the Oakmont Country Club. Elsewhere, the two Lukes are out of the World Cup of Darts and Bath win the Rugby Union Premiership for the first time in 29 years.
Yesterday's thundery start to the weekend today offers something a touch calmer. Join me later for all the weather details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ann Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. Angela's just been in touch and she says it all, I think. She says, good morning and happy Father's Day to all those good, responsible, loving dads out there. I lost my pops recently, so it's a tough one for us, but he is never far from me in my thoughts and heart. And that's lovely. And if you've got a special dad, or if you've had a special dad that you want to sort of pay tribute to this morning, send us a picture and tell us who he is and why, something like that. But because it's a picture, you'll have to send it to gbviews@gbnews.com. Yeah. GBViews, it's a long time since we've used it. gbviews@gbnews.com. We'd love to see your pictures of your pop.
Yes, we would. And if you want to do something nice for your dad, take him out for a beer because it's British Beer Day today. What a perfect day to have it on Father's Day.
Well, it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's a bit of a...
because we all like a beer. And the Daily Star Sunday has got a lot of good quotes in. So how about this one to kick us off this hour from Winston Churchill, no less. Most people hate the taste of beer to begin with. It is, however, a prejudice that most people have been able to overcome.
Acquired taste. Isn't that true of cigarettes and everything, really, almost as well?
I don't think anyone ever likes the taste of cigarettes.
And even your first taste of wine, nobody really likes it, do they? But you work at it.
Yeah.
Till you like
it's acquired taste, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I tell you something else I've discovered, just because the news today is pretty grim. just to throw it in there, scientists have just reported that they think humpback whales have been trying to talk to us for many, many years, and they've only just studied this. Humpback whales produce a sort of bubble ring.
Yeah.
And the bubble ring is, they produce that sort of pronounced ring. It's almost like
a smoke ring.
Exactly. They do that when humans are around and when they are when things are not hostile. And now they are beginning to study those bubble rings, and they think that humpback whales have been trying to say hello to us for quite some time. They don't do it in any other circumstance, not those rings. They only do it in a friendly, laid-back atmosphere when humans are around.
Just wave the fin, that's easier, isn't it?
Well,
you think so?
They do that anyway, don't they? But isn't that remarkable?
They're incredible. I mean, big whales, dolphins as well. They're incredibly intelligent.
And it's only just now that scientists are really properly studying these bubble rings, and that's the conclusion, is that they probably have been trying to communicate with us for years.
I saw them in Mexico. They're unbelievable close up.
They are
amazing,
amazing,
how big they are, honestly.
They're incredible creatures. Anyway, hello back. I have to blow our own bubble rings out. Let's kick off with our main news this morning. It is a major, frankly unbelievable U-turn from the Prime Minister as he announced yesterday a national inquiry into grooming gangs.
Well, it comes in response to Baroness Casey's recommendation, who has been undertaking a national audit into the scandal.
Well, the Conservatives and Reform are now demanding Sir Keir apologise for initially rejecting the move months ago, only allowing 5 councils, to set up their own investigations.
Yes, if you remember, the government dismissed calls at the start of the year, claiming a 7-year inquiry had already been led by Professor Alexis Jay.
Well, Baroness Casey's report is expected to be released next week and to link the scandal to men of Pakistani origin. Let's talk to political commentator John Oxley, who's here in the studio. I mean, this is welcome news, and people are welcoming it, and quite right. It's understandable, though, isn't it, a call for an apology when, I mean, Sir Keir called this, sort of a far-right demand at one stage.
Yes, and there was a lot of anger at that at the start of the year, and it's going to be very interesting to see when the full report from Baroness Casey comes out, what exactly is in there that has convinced the Prime Minister to change his mind, because all along he said the inquiries we've had already have been sufficient, let's get on with implementing the recommendations. But clearly, Baroness Casey, who's very respected in this area, has gone and looked into it and said, actually, no, there is apparently, in her view, a case, and we'll see what persuaded the Prime Minister to change his mind on this.
Well, exactly. I mean, when are we going to see the report for ourselves? I mean, they were talking about middle of next week, but maybe it'll be brought forward now.
I think it may well be, given it's seemingly so persuasive on what needs to happen. So I think maybe this week, maybe the week after, and we'll see the full extent. And presumably that will also give us some indication about what a national inquiry will look like, what it is going to be looking into, and the shape it will take. And
crucially, how long it's going to take. Because, there's no point this being a decade-long inquiry, is it? We need something that's going to be much tighter, much more efficiently. Absolutely, and that's one of the arguments that was made at the start of the year about whether we have a national inquiry at all. The child abuse inquiry, the Alexis Jay one that looked at various different things, lasted for 7 years. We're used to these inquiries taking years, costing lots of money, but that doesn't really help anyone, because one of the things you're looking to do is stop the mistakes that are happening. And if that takes 5-10 years, well, a whole generation of children could be exposed to all sorts of abuse in the time that takes.
Yes, because we know, don't we, from all reports, and certainly from our own Charlie Peters, who's been reporting on it so well, that, the abuse is going on now. This isn't just something that was historic. No. This is going on now. So it's got to act fast. It's got to act fast, and it's got to look at how the police and social services have been dealing with these issues, whether there's the proper safeguarding, whether we're picking up on this early enough, whether we're taking it seriously enough, because that's one of the things that you look all the way through these scandals where it's not being reported, it's not being taken seriously, and it's not being followed up with, and that's something that has to stop.
Look, John, as someone who follows politics as closely as you do, what do you make of how this announcement has come about. It wasn't being mentioned at all. It was only actually our Christopher Hope on the flight over to Canada with the PM when they were, they had the little press briefing things and everyone was asking questions about everything else that's going on in the world. And he just threw in a question about this and got this surprise answer. I mean, why was this done in this way? I mean, you'd expect a big announcement, wouldn't you?
I think probably they wanted to get ahead of the report coming out. These reports, there's often the risk of leaking, and so I think they wanted to leave some room for the report to get out and get the headlines and for people to digest this. But they wanted to show, we've seen what's in it, we're going to get ahead of the curve. And so I think they sort of slipped that out so people are aware of that they're thinking about it. But then there'll probably be more announcements tomorrow in the House of Commons, and then when the report comes out, where they have a bit more of a plan of what the national inquiry will look like, what its terms of reference will be. And so this is laying the groundwork for that, I think.
I don't see how they can't still get round the fact that just a few weeks ago, frankly, they were saying that calls for this mandatory national inquiry was a very far-right thing to do. And then suddenly this report comes out and they've done what it can only be interpreted as a massive U-turn.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably one of the biggest U-turns they've made, isn't it? If not the biggest.
Yes. I mean, it's a complete 180 from what they were saying before. The idea was that this sort of short review probably was going to come back and say, look, we've had all these reviews already. We're in the process of implementing them. Some of the recommendations from the J report are going through in Parliament. There was some argument that having another review might end up delaying those, but clearly, it sounds like this is going to be a very robust, very strong report that says, no, we do need this national inquiry with the power to compel evidence and to force people to turn up. And that's the big difference between what's happened before. If you are on the list of people they want to speak to, they can force you to turn up, and that's going to make a big difference.
And let's not underplay it. Away from the political side of this, we should all be applauding this. Thank heavens the government has decided to do this. It is very important. It could change the lives of an awful lot of people and protect the lives of an awful lot of people, quite right too. However, it does raise very serious questions. Governments change their minds, we know they do. Governments make U-turns historically. It's something that happens. What worries me slightly is the fact that those people who called for this, it was a politicised issue. The government turned this into a left versus right argument.
Yes.
And which is almost goes back to that racism side of it, doesn't it? Saying if you want this, you're racist.
Potentially, yes. It also, I think, goes into some of the politics around the public bodies that have quite clearly failed repeatedly over many years and how much exposure that people want to have of that. But it's something that I think has been handled very badly, and the politicisation of it is very unwelcome. But it's going to be interesting moving forward to see what happens, where these terms of reference land, what the inquiry is actually going to look at. And, again, is there going to be another big political falling out of that? Because the government is going to say, we're going to look at these things, and is that going to satisfy everyone?
And Kemi Badenoch, what do you make of her remarks? On the one hand, she said that basically Keir Starmer has just thought and acted like a lawyer, and until he had to face up to this, he wasn't going to say anything. And it leaves most of us a bit speechless, because you have to be like a human being as well when you're Prime Minister, and surely the facts were laid out in front of him. He could have called for this inquiry ages ago. But then she also claims credit. Doesn't she? She sent out an email to Conservative members saying, we won.
Yes. And, of course, the great irony is, this is a national inquiry that could have taken place 10, 15 years ago when the Conservatives were in power. So I think, one of the unfortunate things about this whole issue, which is, a major thing, is one of the reasons it's not had, it's got far too politicised and has not had the attention it deserved for a long period of time. And really, we need to look at, more broadly, why that has happened as well. And, perhaps something for the terms of reference for the inquiry itself is, why did this stay at a low level, mostly with councils dealing with it, for quite a long time, when it was such a major issue, and no one seemingly seemed to pick up on the idea that this was happening in dozens of towns on an industrial scale.
OK. John, for now, thank you very much indeed. You'll have thoughts on that, I'm sure. I mean, it's a political disgrace for all parties in this country.
And it may well be, depending on, when we see the report, it may turn out to be even more of a political disgrace.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, you can't, you've got to welcome this. You've got to say, well done, almost, that the government at least is getting on with it now. But that doesn't eliminate the questions as to why it's taken so long for governments of all parties, but also why those comments from Keir Starmer were so political.
Yeah.
You're jumping on... If you're calling for this, you're jumping on a far-right bandwagon. Yeah. And now he's saying, yes, we need one.
Yeah.
It's odd.
It beggars belief, actually, really, doesn't it?
It's extraordinary. But I say, it's not to take away from the fact that, thank heavens, it's happening now. And hopefully quickly.
Yes. We will find out more about it. As and when, but hopefully very quickly, as you say. Right, it's just coming up to 6:15. Now, RAF jets and military assets are to be deployed to the Middle East following Iran's warning that the UK and its allies will be targeted if they help stop the missile attacks on Israel.
Overnight, the two states have continued the strikes on each other, the Iranian president threatening a more severe response.
And that warning coincides with world leaders gathering in Canada for the G7 summit, where our political editor Christopher Hope had this update for us.
The G7 in Canada is all back to the world stage. He said overnight to us that Canada is an independent and sovereign country and a much valued member of the Commonwealth. That needs to be said because Donald Trump covets this country as the 51st state of the United States of America. And over all that, the big issue here for the world leaders is what's happening in Iran and Israel. Overnight, the UK has sent RAF Typhoons to protect assets in the Middle East. It is getting very, very tense on a global stage, and that will dominate the G7 when it starts in earnest tomorrow.
Well, let's talk to the former British Army spokesperson, Major Mike Shearer, who joins us now. Mike, it's good to see you this morning. It's in a lot of the headlines this morning that the RAF is being mobilised as contingency support in all of that. What is that likely to mean in real terms?
Well, in truth, I think we're going to have to wait out until they have this G7 meeting. But look, this is a world issue. And yet again, Israel is left to do the heavy lifting. It simply is unacceptable to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapons. Let's not forget that Obama, back in 2015, and this is why Donald Trump's hand is in the mangle now. Way back in the day, 2015, Obama set up this mutually agreed deal with Iran known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And they both agreed to reduce Iran's uranium enrichment to 3.67%. Now, in Trump's first presidency, he reneged on this deal. And so now we know that, Iran has openly said that they've got 60%. Well, probably they've got 85% enrichment and maybe even north of that. You only need 90% enrichment to have weapon-grade enrichment, and that will allow you to build nuclear warheads. Then all you need is a carrier system to deliver it. So the world should be getting involved in this, and there should be a coalition of the West and our Arab neighbours in order to deal with this.
But we have seen, haven't we, overnight, more missiles coming in from Iran over into Israel. And I think just everybody is wondering, how vulnerable are our bases in the Middle East?
Well, they are vulnerable, but they would be more vulnerable if Iran had nuclear weapons. This should have been dealt with years ago. And as I said a moment ago, it has been left to Israel yet again to do the heavy lifting in the region. Israel, just like Ukraine, they are a buffer state for the West and civilization. And we really do need to join in and sharpish.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, though, isn't it? I mean, it's almost 24 hours ago we broke the news that Iran sort of directly threatened the UK, the US and France, saying if we help defend Israel, we would be targeted, or our bases would be targeted. I mean, is that sort of rhetoric expected under these circumstances or not? Would it be enough to frighten us off?
Well, I mean, you would expect that kind of rhetoric. You've got to remember that Iran, while it has some capacity, it is estimated between 2,000 and 3,000 ballistic missiles. You know, they cannot sustain their attacks indefinitely. Their production lines have now really been put to bed. And so I think over the last few days, they fired something like 300 to 400 missiles. They cannot keep that up.
Well, doesn't that depend on who their friends are? I mean, they will be being supplied by others, won't they?
Well, I think any supply right now, it will be curtailed because the Israelis have complete air freedom over the region. And so I don't think they can be supplied right now.
Mm-hmm. OK. Mike, as always, it's good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Is it time for us to come together in a coalition, an allied coalition against Iran and sort this out once and for all? It's always a risky business. We know that.
If they are that close to enriching the uranium to where it needs to be, that is pretty alarming. Something has got to be done.
Yeah.
But yet again, here we've got an issue where we are being told something should have been done about this years ago.
Yeah, well, yes. But they have been having these discussions and, you know, jaw better than war, it's all that sort of thing, isn't it? But
only to a certain level.
But well, yeah, I mean, it looks like round 6 of these discussions on Monday, if they still take place, and it's, yeah, and you say Iran is still producing up to this a highly enriched uranium of 60%, that, as Mike said, that they admit to, which is far, 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 far more enriched than they actually need it if they're just going to use it for what they say they will.
But certainly, if you watch some of the nighttime pictures over the last, 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 nights, I mean, they are just using up so many of their munitions. You wonder how soon they're going to run out. They can't keep it up. Or are the Israelis provoking them to do just that, so that they are depleted completely of their weapons?
But at cost, it's coming at a cost.
Yes, of course it is.
And when we talked to the former National Intelligence spokesman, on Friday, I think it was, for Israel, saying, some will get through.
Well, one hit the IDF headquarters in Tel Aviv, didn't it?
It's a price they knew they would have to pay. It's also worth pointing out that there have been some civilian targets hit in Iran as well. I mean, so civilians pay the price on both sides of this, and that's war.
That's war,
isn't it, sadly? Yeah. Right, away from all of that, let's have a cheeky look at what the weather's going to do with Jonathan.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. It has been quite an unsettled start to summer so far, but increasingly we're going to see things calm down as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. It's slow progress though, so we do still have this weather front first thing this morning, providing some outbreaks of rain, generally light rain for Northern Ireland and areas of western Scotland. It will slowly move its way southeastwards, spreading into parts of northern England and Wales as we head into the afternoon. A few showers also developing for central England, those pushing their way into southeastern areas as we head into the afternoon. But between that, for a good chunk of England, there will be some sunny spells developing. And in that sunshine, it will be feeling pleasantly warm. Highs of around 24, 25 degrees Celsius is certainly not too bad for the time of year, and with light winds as well. We'll eventually see high teens developing for Northern Ireland, parts of central and eastern Scotland, particularly once the sunshine starts poking its way through into the afternoon and early evening here. Outbreaks of rain still continuing on and off for the Northern Isles throughout the day, and we will start to see the cloud building this evening across western Scotland as we get our next band of rain slowly pushing its way in here. Those spells potentially turning heavy over the hills for a time. Elsewhere tonight, though, it will be staying dry, some clear spells. A few mist and fog patches are possible, but it's going to be relatively mild. Temperatures in double-digit figures for most of us as we start off the new working week. Those outbreaks of rain still continuing for western Scotland as we move throughout the day, so it will be fairly damp and dreary to come here. A bit of a brisk breeze along those coastal regions. But with that high pressure starting to develop in, there'll be a decent number of sunny spells in there for the bulk of Northern Ireland, England and Wales. Temperatures actually climbing up on what we're going to be seeing today, now seeing 26 degrees in the southeast, but even 20 possible for central eastern Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. That high pressure then become increasingly dominant, and so the sunshine will become more prolonged and those temperatures also continuing to climb. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I must say, these lighter evenings makes it more difficult to go to bed early, which is the sensible thing to do if you're up early. But it's nice to have a bit of sun, isn't it?
It's going to start getting darker soon.
Oh, don't say that.
It is, yeah. Is it 29th of June? Is it summer solstice? Something like that? Something like that. So we're not far from the longest
well, I'm not going
day.
to complain about it.
No, don't complain, because then it'll be dark before you know it.
Yeah. OK. Do stay with us, because still to come, we're going to celebrate the annual Diesel Gala, which has returned to the North Yorkshire Moors Railway. Sounds gorgeous. We'll have a look in just a couple of moments.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No, because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's 6:28. We've been asking for your photos of your dads.
Yeah,
because it's Father's Day. So let's start. This is Nick, who sent this in of his dad, Ron. Oh, that's a lovely, lovely picture. But he's currently struggling with a chest infection in hospital. But Nick says Ron is 91 and he is my hero. And, Ron, you'll be back drinking that nice glass of red wine in the pub before you know it.
OK, so there's another one here now. This is from Abigail, of her father, William. Oh, what a lovely one. Very proud. That's William. She says, sadly, he passed away 20 years ago now. But, of course, still very much loved and missed. And you think of them particularly specially, don't you, on Father's Day?
What uniform is that?
That's what
I can't really tell
there's
from
a
here.
red flare in his cap.
The red flare. I wonder if that... is that a Scots Guard thing, or... I don't know.
And what's he holding? Is that a trombone?
Yes, I think it is a trombone.
So was he a military band member or something?
I don't know. What a fabulous picture.
It is, yeah.
It's nice to remember, actually. I think it's the amazing thing with photography these days, that you remember your parents not only as they are, but as they were when they were younger, when we were younger.
Yes, it's timely to remember, actually, that once upon a time they were young.
They were young too.
And they made mistakes too, and fell in love too, and did all of the things that we think only belong to the young, but they were young once too. If you've got lovely pictures of the father that you want to remember or say hi to at the moment, then do send them to us. Tell us all about them. Tell us who you are and where from. Oh, I think we've got a special one here.
Have a look at this. And that's my dad. That's my dad last week celebrating his birthday. We had a nice family do last week. 80.
80? Oh, wow.
See, he looks good for 80.
You look like him.
Well, good.
Well, he looks like you. Yeah, but you can see the resemblance very strongly there. What's his name?
Eddie.
Eddie. Yeah, happy Father's Day, Eddie. That is really smashing photograph.
It's a lovely picture of him. It just captures him perfectly.
So go on. If you've got a lovely picture of a dad that you want to remember or say hi to at the moment, then send it to gbviews@gbnews.com. There you go, you see? I'm afraid
Do I?
Yeah, you absolutely look the same.
Sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad.
It's the same Dixon nose, I think, is
there.
there.
You go, you see.
And the smile. No, it's lovely.
He's a good... You know, I'm really...
Do you know,
it's
photograph
lovely,
like that is reassuring for you. Because one day, when you're old, you'll look that good.
I will. My brother already looks like that.
What? Good morning, brother. What's his name?
Richard.
Richard.
No, Richard was very offended once because one of Dad's friends stopped him and said, "Are you Eddie's brother?" He's got much whiter hair than me, he's my brother. Yeah. But no, a good dad makes all the difference in the world.
Good dads are what we need more of.
I think we do, actually, we do.
Ever-present dads, hopefully. And sadly, I mean, we've had a few emails already from people who said, you know, my dad died a while ago, or I never had a dad because he died when I was young. And that's terribly sad. Of course it is. If you haven't got a dad you can remember or say hi to at the moment, a good dad is needed. We need a nation of good dads.
We do. We do.
OK, let's get a bit, nostalgic in a way. 6:31. Let's go up to the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, where they're celebrating the annual diesel gala. And they're welcoming 4 visiting 1960s locomotives, including one called Alcydon and Rodney.
Rodney? Go on, Rodders.
Trains have good names.
Me too. It's a 4-day event. It concludes today at the iconic railway and it celebrates the sights, sounds and power of Britain's heritage diesel locomotives.
Set against the backdrop of the North York Moors National Park, it's very popular with seasoned diesel enthusiasts or those who are simply curious about them. Our reporter Anna Riley has the story.
Showcasing Britain's diesel locomotive heritage, the North Yorkshire Moors Railway Diesel Gala transports visitors back in time.
They're all locos from, the UK, and we've got ones from different regions and different periods, earlier ones, later ones. So it does give that mix of, that sort of typical British traction that we had in the sort of 60s, 70s, 80s and through to the 90s. In fact, some of them are still, odd ones are still running, Going.
The whole of the heritage railway movement still runs on Victorian in the steam engine era, but our 1950s and 60s technology, what we've got behind us. So, they're knocking on granddads themselves, these machines.
The famous Class 55 Deltics are known for their power and ability to haul trains at high speeds. Here, the Alcedon drew the most crowds.
Originally, the Deltic Preservation Society was formed in 1977 to preserve the iconic Class 55 Deltics from British Rail. They finally bought two in 1982, including this one behind us. They were decommissioned basically due to the iconic HSTs coming in, high-speed trains. So in 1982 they were taken out of service. It shows everyone a bit of history really, because this one's mainline registered, so when it's ready to go onto the main line, it can go back onto the main line between London and Edinburgh.
The sights and sounds of these diesel engines is nostalgic for some and new to others.
A lot of people nowadays don't remember the steam engines running, whereas these diesel engines, a lot of people will remember them from their childhoods. It's nice to keep them going. These engines help build Britain, so it's nice to keep a bit of that past alive.
When privatisation came in, all our favourite diesel classes, they sort of like dripped away, like, you know, so it's great to come to diesel galas and relive all the past times.
Well, it's part of British heritage, isn't it? It's a really important part of our culture. It's important for the country to keep proper British engineering alive.
I just love the fact that it's old stuff, it's our heritage.
Celebrating the legacy of diesel trains, this gala is on track to be a memorable one. Anna Riley, GB News, Gromont.
Something fascinating about it. I'd love to go to that. What is it about trains? We love trains, don't we?
They sort of go through the countryside. If you take a train ride, you see things that you would never normally see from the road, for instance.
I tell you what, I was intrigued at in that.
Sit back and enjoy it as well.
Yeah, but it's the number of young people in Anna's report there, which is really interesting as well, really into their diesel trains. I say, keep it alive. It doesn't mean we can't evolve into other things, but you don't want to just get rid of what we've had before.
No, because there's something very enjoyable about them.
There is.
Tell you what, though, what about 54321 in pounds? £54,321. It's our biggest cash giveaway. Here's how to take part.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you can spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, at 6:36, time for the Daily Reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Welcome to St Michael's Church in Newhaven. My name is Marcus Mack. A little boy longed to spend time with his father, who always came home late after dinner. The boy asked, "How much do you make an hour?" Irritated, the father said, "If you must know, I make £30 an hour." "Can I borrow £15, please?" the little boy requested. The father was furious, assuming an ulterior motive was behind the question, and told his son to go straight to bed. Realizing how harsh he was, the father apologized and gave his son £15. Delighted, the son then took out another £15 and said, "Can I buy an hour of your time? Please come home early so we can have dinner together." This story highlights the father hunger we all have and the importance of a present father. Today is Father's Day. Fathers and fatherly figures are a wonderful gift to children and to society. They play a distinct and essential role that no one else can fulfill. Whether today is a day of celebrating or grieving, know this: within the Christian faith, Jesus the Son invites us to know God not as servants, but as a Father, and experience His love by the Spirit. Through Jesus, we can become children of God and know the perfect and parental providence of the Father, who will never abandon us and who helps fathers and men become the men we were made to be. If you are doing the best you can as a father, keep up the great work. If you have struggled to be the father you were made to be, it is never too late.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now imagine this. You spend your entire life dreaming of public service. You work your way up to become the Director of Public Prosecutions. You then become a Member of Parliament, and just next to your constituency is a world-famous museum hosting
I'm imagining it, Tom.
waxworks of famous figures, and you dream that one day you will be featured in this mausoleum, for want of a better word. You become Prime Minister and you think, now, finally, my waxwork will be on display at the world-famous Madame Tussauds. And then they say no.
And then you find out that Theresa May has one.
Oh.
Yes, so Madame Tussauds, there's Theresa May. There she is in her suit.
Yeah,
she was always one for colourful outfits.
Theresa May has a waxwork there, so does Boris Johnson, of course. It's reasonable to expect the Prime Minister would have thought that he would join the likes of David Cameron, Theresa May and Boris Johnson with a waxwork.
Winston Churchill. Yeah. Winston Churchill has one. Harold Macmillan apparently was previously displayed. Tony Blair.
Of course.
Tony Blair, of course. But apparently, so Madame Tussauds can't be sure that he'll still be relevant in 5 years' time. That's the reason.
Is that why they've said it? No.
They can't be sure, so they don't want to put the money into it, presumably.
Wow.
I could imagine Keir Starmer commissioning his own.
And yet, Lord Salisbury had a waxwork, the Marquis of Salisbury, Harold Macmillan and David Lloyd George, of course. But the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland...
Think about this.
...does not have a waxwork because he's not relevant.
A spokesperson told the Metro, "We have no current plans to make a figure of the British Prime Minister."
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Oh, you caught me a sniffle, I do
apologise.
apologise.
What's the sexiest accent in Britain?
I don't know.
Well, there's been a survey.
Oh, excellent.
And apparently it's Liverpool.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Scousey accent is the sexiest for some reason. I'll try and find out why it's particularly sexy.
Oh, I do love a Scouse accent.
I must say I do too.
I don't know if I'd have thought it was particularly sexy. But anyway, if you're a Scouser, rest back peacefully today knowing you're sexy as hell. Even just by doing nothing but speaking.
Yeah, Aidan McGee is here to tell us all the sport happening yesterday and today.
Well, one accent we haven't heard much of is Rory McIlroy's Northern Irish accent in recent weeks because he's not been speaking to the media. He's I wouldn't say he's thrown his toys out of the pram. He was a little bit unhappy with the way the media covered a story about his driver because the USPGA inspected his equipment and weren't happy with his driver. It seems like quite an innocuous story, but he wasn't happy with the way the media covered it. And I think he was still on a high from winning the Masters and it's kind of been a general lull, which I'll get into a little bit later. But he did say yesterday that he can do whatever he wants. He's earned the right to do that. And he spoke yesterday for the first time in a few weeks. It's unlike him, to be honest with you. I wouldn't call him a rent-a-gob necessarily, but he's always been front and centre with speaking to the media, and he takes the role very seriously. But here's what he said yesterday at the Oakmont Country Park.
I feel like I've earned the right to do whatever I want to do, yeah. But it's not as if, like, at Augusta, I skipped you guys on Thursday, so yeah, it's not as if it's not out of the ordinary. I've done it before. I'm just doing it a little more often.
And I think it's endemic of the fact that he's probably just lost a little bit of hunger for golf just in the last couple of months. April was when he won the Masters. He completed golf because he completed that final major. And I speculated yesterday, didn't I, about maybe he's going through something that Andy Murray went through. He said he went through in 2013. He put everything into winning that Wimbledon, didn't he? And he said, look, I didn't feel that hungry afterwards.
His little press conference there, does he have to do that contractually, like the Wimbledon winners do?
He's allowed to skip a certain number over a period of time. Yeah. But as he said there, it's not out of the ordinary. He does skip the odd one. It depends how they're feeling. I don't think it's the case that there was a time in some sports where if they didn't turn up for those, they got fined.
Yes, that's right.
And in tennis,
I just wonder if, he wants to take some time out,
yes.
Which probably is a very healthy thing to do.
Well,
but then the press, insist that they have a word with him, and suddenly he can't get out of it again. I can understand
no, exactly.
that.
Look, he's still in contention nominally today. He's 10 over. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I think 6 out of the original 156 field has managed under par on this course. It's really unforgiving. There's been torrential storms over there. McIlroy said himself his own performance is average, and he talked today about just, look, I'm in there. I still have to complete or go through what I have to go through, but hopefully in 4.5 hours I'll be out of there and I'll be able to go home. And he said, I feel flat on the golf course at the moment. But if we look at Murray's case, he did bounce back. He won the Davis Cup. He won another Wimbledon in 2013. Rory McIlroy is only 36. I think there's plenty more to come from him. But we should say as well that Sam Burns still leading at 4 under, and we're going into the final round this evening. It's underway from 8 minutes to 2. 8 minutes to 1 today, sorry.
All right, lovely. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. Still to come, we're going to take you through the papers with Nikki Hodgson and Christo Fufas. There they are, raring to go. But first, if you want a bit of holiday sun, here's the forecast for the top European hotspots.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If it's heat you're after, then the Mediterranean is the place to be over this forthcoming week. We are going to be seeing temperatures climb over the next few days. Worth noting that heat could spark off a few showers and thunderstorms in places, but generally there will be plentiful amounts of sunshine for many of these countries if you are heading out. The peak of the heat likely to be on Wednesday at this point, with inland areas in particular seeing 35 to 40 degrees Celsius.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, let's see what's in the papers this morning with the journalists Christo Fufaf and Nikki Hodgson. Morning, you two. Christo,
morning.
The best of Britain in the Sunday Express. This sounds nice.
This is, of course, a lovely picture story that we've got here. Where am I holding it? There. Best of Britain, which is, of course, the Trooping the Colour that we saw yesterday. Beaming royals give nation a day to cheer on the King's birthday. This is what we do best.
Of course it
is. It really is. All of this pomp, all of this pageantry. We're so good at it, and the papers all love it, the tourists all love it, and I defy anyone else.
Look fantastic.
Oh, what an outfit, actually.
Fantastic outfit. And
she colour-coordinated with her daughter, with Charlotte.
Yes.
They look gorgeous together, don't they?
Yeah.
They're so lovely.
They're such a... I saw a photo of them yesterday, and I just thought, you know, without being too much of a monarchist, they're just such a lovely-looking family.
They really are.
Really lovely family. So I think a lot of the papers have got this. So the Express has got a big story, Telegraph as well. Really lovely picture. Oh, you've got some lovely pictures on it, right?
Yeah, we can see Catherine there with the children in that open carriage.
Yes.
And luckily the sun stayed all sunny and shining, and looking at it, you know, the soldiers marching around on horse guards, like toy soldiers.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just brilliant. It was a lovely day.
It makes you, I mean...
And you know those four jets that were in a diamond formation? I can't remember. They weren't Typhoons. They were more modern...
Yes.
Were they Hawks or something?
No, they weren't Hawks. But anyway, well, whatever they were, I can't remember the name. But I went back home and was in my garden yesterday, and they flew over.
Oh,
just for you?
Yes. It was my personal fly past. But, you know, they made such a noise, and they weren't doing... They rattled the windows. It was incredible sound.
You'll be happy to know that the RAF used sustainable aviation fuel in the fly past for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So there we go.
Well, the plane stayed up, that's the main thing.
Yeah. I don't even know what sustainable aviation fuel is, but it's apparently good.
Well, King Charles will be all for that. He's so climate conscious.
Yes, it will be. In the Daily Star Sunday, Nikki, on what is British Beer Day, which you may not have realised, they've got a story about the number of pubs that have disappeared since the millennium.
Yeah, this is shocking, really. I mean, obviously, I know quite a lot about this because my husband used to be a bar owner. He had a portfolio of 5 bars that he created from scratch, and we sold them, and that was great. But we nearly went down loads of times because of the way the government taxes pubs. The red tape around running hospitality establishments is just beyond the pale. Pubs really, really struggle with the rises in rents, the overheads, and, you know, a really good pub is sort of a pillar of the community.
Yes,
it's a community centre for people. I mean, I don't drink anymore, and I would still go to a pub and not drink alcohol to be with people that, you know, I care about. And, you know, increasingly, lots of pubs serve non-alcoholic beers and different options.
Now, yeah.
So that's not really part of the issue. It's to do with the government red tape not supporting these vital businesses. And I hate to say it, after Brexit, we had a massive problem with staffing because there was an exodus of all the European staff that worked for us, and that just made it even more difficult.
We talked talk about these traditions of Britain when we're talking about trooping the colour, and the pub is, of course, just as you say, it's the pillar of the community. It is such a shame that we're seeing so many close, and the government just aren't doing enough.
No.
They're, as you say, they are putting more and more barriers and red tape in front of public... Well, any business owner, really, but pubs especially.
Yeah.
It's an absolute nightmare.
Can we just finish off? We've just got 60 seconds left, Christo, to talk about The Sun and a film about racing.
Yes, it's a new film starring the ex-F1 driver Jenson Button.
Excellent,
right? So what you'd expect to see is lots and lots of spins and lots and lots of high-speed cars. So the BBFC, the British Board of Film Classification, has given it an absolute load of warnings. 4 warnings in total, telling people cars crash and spin during motor races. Archive footage includes a brief and undetailed sight of an explosion. There's also a fleeting scene of a punch to the face.
Oh, good grief.
Because we all will literally have a meltdown if we see something we weren't expected and don't have 5 warnings telling us.
Spins and crashes in a film about racing?
Yes. And so, obviously, a few people are up in arms about it.
I'm going to book a therapist immediately.
Yeah,
Just from hearing about it.
But the problem is, if we don't have it, we'll lose these things.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? Right, you two, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you later.
Here's the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. It has been quite an unsettled start to summer so far, but increasingly we're going to see things calm down as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. It's slow progress though, so we do still have this weather front first thing this morning, providing some outbreaks of rain, generally light rain for Northern Ireland and areas of western Scotland. It will slowly move its way southeastwards, spreading into parts of Northern England and Wales as we head into the afternoon. A few showers also developing for central England, those pushing their way into southeastern areas as we head into the afternoon. But between that, for a good chunk of England, there will be some sunny spells developing. And in that sunshine, it will be feeling pleasantly warm. Highs of around 24, 25 degrees Celsius is certainly not too bad for the time of year, and with light winds as well. We'll eventually see high teens developing for Northern Ireland, parts of central and eastern Scotland, particularly once the sunshine starts poking its way through into the afternoon and early evening here. Outbreaks of rain still continuing on and off for the northern Isles throughout the day, and we will start to see the cloud building this evening across western Scotland as we get our next band of rain slowly pushing its way in here. Those spells potentially turning heavy over the hills for a time. Elsewhere tonight, though, it will be staying dry, some clear spells. A few mist and fog patches are possible, but it's going to be relatively mild. Temperatures in double-digit figures for most of us as we start off the new working week. Those outbreaks of rain still continuing for western Scotland as we move throughout the day, so it will be fairly damp and dreary to come here. A bit of a brisk breeze along those coastal regions. But with that high pressure starting to develop in, there'll be a decent number of sunny spells in there for the bulk of Northern Ireland, England and Wales. Temperatures actually climbing up on what we're going to be seeing today, now seeing 26 degrees in the southeast, but even 20 possible for central, eastern Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. That high pressure then become increasingly dominant, and so the sunshine will become more prolonged and those temperatures also continuing to climb. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister U-turns on grooming gangs.
A national inquiry will be launched into the abuse scandal.
But it comes just months after Sir Keir Starmer described calls for a national inquiry as jumping on a far-right bandwagon.
So the big question now is, will victims finally get answers to the questions they want to pose and action?
Well, there is cautious optimism from those survivors and their families this morning as the news sinks in that this government has ordered a judge-led inquiry into the grooming gang scandal.
Tensions soar as RAF jets are deployed to the Middle East amid fears of an all-out war. It comes as multiple casualties have been reported in Israel in the latest wave of missile strikes from Iran.
Israeli military personnel are currently involved along with civilian groups in trying to dig through the rubble of a number of strikes. At least 8 people have been killed and we're told as many as 140 injured.
Building British. The government will tell companies they must prioritise workers from the UK if they want to win contracts to build roads, hospitals and power plants.
6 robbers and 3 tons of gold. Money like that will end up in surprising places with surprising people. Ready?
That's a drama based on a true story, but is there accuracy or just too much artistic freedom? Critics are hitting out at the storyline of a new TV series about the Brinksmat robbery. So we're asking, when it comes to these sort of dramas, should TV stick to the facts?
Club football's ultimate prize or just another FIFA cash grab? The Club World Cup of Football is underway in Miami in front of rows of empty seats and heavy security. Elsewhere, though, the two Lukes out of the World Cup of Darts, and Bath win the Rugby Union Premiership for the first time in 29 years.
Yesterday's thundery start to the weekend today offers something a touch calmer. Join me later for all the weather details.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ann Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
And a very happy Father's Day to kick things off this morning. We've been asking for some of your pictures.
This one from Sarah. She says, my wonderful dad, Ray, no longer here, but remembered every day.
Oh, a police officer.
Yeah.
What a fantastic
Lovely photo.
shot there in his uniform. This is from Karen. Her dad, Melvin, will be 90 in November, and there he is enjoying a pint
We've had lots of those today, haven't we?
Yeah, well, quite right too. What a
And
great shot.
Finally, for the moment, this is from Olivia, who sent this of her partner Tom and daughter Ali, who's coming up to 6 months old, and they're celebrating their first Father's Day today. That is beautiful.
Lovely.
So keep your lovely photographs coming in, please. gbviews@gbnews.com. Tell us. Remember to tell us your name and Dad's name and where you're posting from. It would just be lovely to hear from you this Father's Day.
Now, our main news this morning: an RAF jets and military. Are we starting with this one, or are we going to talk grooming gangs? No, OK, we're going to start with this. We'll talk grooming gangs in a moment. RAF jets and military assets are being deployed to the Middle East following Iran's warning that the UK and its allies will be targeted if they help stop missile attacks on Israel.
Overnight, the two states have continued strikes on each other, with Iran's president threatening a more severe response.
Well, that warning coincides with world leaders gathering in Canada for the G7, where our political editor Chris Hope sent this update.
The G7 in Canada is all back to the world stage. He said overnight to us that Canada is an independent and sovereign country and a much valued member of the Commonwealth. That needs to be said because Donald Trump covets this country as the 51st state of the United States of America. And over all that, the big issue here for the world leaders is what's happening in Iran and Israel. Overnight, the UK has sent RAF Typhoons to protect assets in the Middle East. It is getting very, very tense on a global stage, and that will dominate the G7 when it starts in earnest tomorrow.
Right, let's talk to our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Can you update us even more, Mark? I mean, what's happening at the moment is very, very worrying because things appear to be escalating.
Yeah, good morning to you. 2 waves of significant attacks aimed at Israel last night. One that came in sort of late evening, and then basically as we were finished for the night, about 1 a.m. our time, another much more significant attack came into Israel that involved missiles launched from both Iran and Yemen, as well as drones, a sort of Russia playbook type attack as we've seen so often in Ukraine. And you're looking at some of the images there over northern Israel. I mean, I think in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, they could see what was going on further to the north around the port city in Haifa, and some really worrying news coming out in terms of the casualty toll in Israel. At least 4 people were killed in a strike on an apartment building in northern Israel, not far from Haifa, others injured. And then an apartment block at Bat Yam, which is just south of Tel Aviv, on the southern outskirts of Tel Aviv, suffered a direct hit as well. At least part of that building collapsed. We're told that another 4 people there have been killed. And Israeli emergency services putting the number of injured at as many as 140. And we also believe that there may be significant numbers of people still unaccounted for. That's why the rescue teams are still sifting through the rubble of that apartment building. Israel has accused Iran of deliberately targeting these civilian areas. Of course, Iran has accused Israel of doing likewise. Israel has certainly taken out chief nuclear scientists and political leaders in their home addresses, which have been in cities, but these have been precision strikes. The images that we're looking at have been strikes on civilian areas, although we understand that the oil depot in Haifa may have been struck as well. So some very worrying scenes and no doubt a retaliatory response from Israel.
OK, Mark, for now, thanks very much indeed. Well, joining us in the studio is Vahid Beheshti, who is a British-Iranian journalist, and so very much across all this. Very good to see you this morning. Away from the military action, if we can a little bit, I wonder what the impact of this will be amongst the Iranian people because there has been this very clear call from Netanyahu to say now is the time for Iranians to stand up against that regime. Is that something Iranian people want? Is that something a message to which they will listen?
Exactly. You know, so this is what Iranian people, they have been waiting for 46 years. So they've been asking Benjamin Netanyahu for this stroke. So I am the only figure from the Iranian opposition who gave a speech a year and a half ago in Knesset and addressed the ministers. And in that meeting, for the first time, when all the focus only was on Hamas, I stated we should not be afraid to target the nuclear sites, the IRGC sites, and the House of High Officials. 2 weeks later, the Iranian people hung 6 meters banner in Tehran. Wahid Beheshti is our voice. We stand by Israel. And in the second banner, 2 weeks later, they asked, Wahid Beheshti brought our message to you, Benjamin Netanyahu. Bibi, we are waiting. So this is the message of Iranian. If you see the images that comes from Iran, last night they were stuck in traffic. People came out, they start dancing and celebrating for this. They have been waiting for this. But let's say, first of all, what we are facing. We are facing full-scale military and intelligence warfare with the aim of overthrowing the regime, not just neutralizing the nuclear threat, because the only way to neutralize the nuclear threat of the Iranian regime is regime change. I'm not saying that. Rafael Garussi, the head director of IAEA, 2 days before this war started, he stated the nuclear program of the regime is very complex, layer by layer, hidden in different sites all over Iran. Some of these sites are 800 meters under the ground. You have no chance to neutralize this threat only by military action. Regime change is the only way, but regime change is going to be the result of joint task between Iranian people as an army on the ground and the international community. So at this moment, I invite all Europe and all different countries to back Israel. Israelis and Iranians are fighting for all of us. If you look at the nature of this regime, the nature of this regime. Okay.
No, I was just going to say to you, the concern there will be from many in the West, because we've seen it before, is you bring about regime change and you end up with something worse.
It is not that, because all the wars that we experience, the root is in Iranian regime. So the Iranian regime is like a cancer in the region. If we want peace in the region, not only in the region, in here, because now you experience the terrorist networks of Iranian regime reaching into our cities here in London, in different cities. So we're experiencing that. For years, we have over 18 years, we have been warning our leaders. This regime is not driven by politics, but by an ideology, crazy ideology. What is the ideology? They believe they have a divine mission from the God to destroy Western civilization, replace it by a state of Islamic State, Caliphate. And they are willing to die for this. How can you change the nature of a scorpion? The only way is to kill a scorpion.
Do you feel now, you say you've been waiting for this for so many years, do you feel that it is now or never?
It is now or never. And Iranian people are waiting. You will see this in few, I would say, I'm not saying tomorrow, in maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, Iranian people start raising up and back into the streets. You know, it's been started from last night. They start chanting death to Khamenei, death to dictators from the windows, and now is the time. Okay. And we have to do it once for all.
Well, we shall see how it develops. Vahid, it's really good to see you.
Thank you.
And I hope you'll come back again in the next few weeks.
Thank you.
Keep this conversation going. Thank you.
OK, it's 12 minutes past 7. Now, in what you can only call a major U-turn, the Prime Minister has announced a national mandatory inquiry into those grooming gangs.
Well, it comes in response to Baroness Casey's recommendation, who's been undertaking a national audit into the scandal.
Well, politically, the Conservatives and Reform are now demanding that Sir Keir Starmer apologise because he initially rejected the whole idea months ago, only allowing 5 councils to set up their own local investigations.
The government dismissed calls at the start of the year, saying that a 7-year inquiry had already been led by Professor Alexis Jay, and all those recommendations needed to be carried out before they did anything else.
But now we've got Baroness Casey's report, and it is expected to be released next week, and it is expected, well, it must have some bombshell news in it, mustn't it, because it's caused such a U-turn. It is expected now to openly link the scandal to men of Pakistani origin.
All right, let's talk to our national reporter, Charlie Peters, who's here. I mean, I'm staggered by this U-turn, Charlie. Not that it's not welcomed, because of course it is, because all right-minded people were saying this needs to be looked at on a national scale. It's the fact that it's gone from being jumping on a far-right bandwagon, if you were calling for this, to now saying, yes, we must have it.
Yeah, from the far right to government policy in just 5 months. It's quite the change. However, I would say, well, it's politically difficult for Sir Keir Starmer to make that shift. The more difficult question for him, I think, is actually, why has it taken Baroness Casey's report? It's going to be absolutely damning when it comes out, possibly as early as tomorrow morning. But I think what will be in that report is stuff that journalists have been able to tell this government and previous governments for many years. We produced an investigation 2 years ago that found that over 50 different towns and cities have been affected by this scourge. We have been relentless in revealing cover-ups, political failures, police investigations that have gone awry. As recently as April, we spoke to a former police officer in Bradford who said that he was threatened with arrest when he tried to raise concerns about this issue. Last week, we had another bit of survivor testimony, someone coming forward and showing their horrendous ordeal in Telford, where there hadn't been sufficient action. So there's just been relentless information showing how widespread this failure has been. Why has it taken Casey to change this?
Since this announcement, you've had even more contacts from people who said, now maybe I have got the courage to speak out.
And I think that's one of the most reassuring things about this announcement. Obviously, there is a great feeling that justice delayed is justice denied. Many of the women and girls involved in this horrifying ordeal, they wait up to 20 years, sometimes longer, to get justice for their abuse. 2 days ago, 7 men were found guilty at Minshall Street Crown Court in Manchester for abuse that started in 2001. They will get heavy prison sentences in just a few weeks, I expect. However, those survivors who failed at that time, a lot of questions still haven't been answered. Why did, for example, a 10-year-old girl who was part of that trial, girl A, why was she described by social workers as a prostitute when concerns were first raised?
That in itself
10 years old. And why have those social workers never faced sufficient action? That is the question at the heart of this, because we've had some prosecutions, 400, I think, since 2000. We've had 1 deportation since 2011, but more action needs to be taken.
I'll tell you what strikes me with all of this is there's vast amounts of stuff from over the last few decades to get through on this, but it is also the fact that we know it is still going on.
Yeah, when we released that investigation 2 years ago with the 50 different towns and cities, the then government, with Home Secretary Suella Braverman at the time, they launched a grooming gangs task force on the back of what we'd uncovered. It made over 1,000 arrests in its first year. And people keep saying, oh, this is an issue of the past, Rotherham was the late 90s. No, this is a pattern of abuse that has never been properly dealt with. That's why this channel and so many other outlets have been focusing on it so intensely. And, you know, while we're waiting for this inquiry to set up, there is a lot more work to do. And we have another exclusive we can reveal this morning, which is that GB News can reveal now that the Pakistan government has lobbied for its flag carrier, Pakistan International Airlines, to be able to fly to Britain in return for grooming gang offenders who were born in Pakistan being deported back to that country. Whitehall sources have told GB News that 3 men born in Pakistan who were convicted of grooming gang offences are the subject of ongoing diplomacy between the British government and the Pakistani government. Now, Pakistan International Airlines remains banned from flying to and from Britain due to safety concerns. However, Whitehall sources have told me in the recent weeks that it has been the subject of high-level diplomacy, including the Foreign Secretary David Lammy and the Foreign Office Minister Hamish Falconer, between him and senior-level representatives from Islamabad. They have proposed, in exchange for accepting deported Pakistani grooming gang rapists, that in exchange for them being taken back to Pakistan, we should allow their airline to return flying to Britain.
That is sensational. And absolutely terrible to hear. But there is going to be growing evidence, and I know you've already uncovered a lot, of cover-up or whitewashing or just plain corruption here at high levels.
Corruption is the word that people are so scared of because it's the right word to use, and it absolutely is, because whenever we've discussed this issue, people have always thought, well, this was an issue of political correctness. People didn't want to get involved because they were concerned about being accused of racism. That is a big part of it, don't get me wrong. But it goes further than that. And that's why this statutory level investigation has always been needed when you speak to survivors and their families, because they know it wasn't just a fear of being tarnished with some language. They were also nervous about it being exposed, their links to these abusers. There are big questions to ask now, and perhaps Baroness Casey will answer some of them next week in her reports, about links between authorities and gangs, about kinship, about families, about cousin marriage, possibly. If your cousin is a police officer and your other cousin is a grooming gang offender, perhaps they could work together to support and protect each other. We're still working on a few stories along those lines, but hopefully that comes out soon.
Yeah, and that is the sort of information that we do need. It's going to blow the lid off that, hopefully. But amidst all of that, what is still the thing which I can't get my head round is the fact that throughout all of this, you've had children who are victims, who have been arrested, who have been, as you say, labelled as prostitutes.
Children?
And all this sort of... which beggars belief, and it shouldn't matter who they are, what their background is, what their colour is, anything at all.
No, but we've been
if they are children, why are they being labelled in this way?
Haven't we been led to believe as well that they're all children from vulnerable families? As though there's something wrong with that. But it's, in fact, that's not true.
It's the most just slur to say that it, in a sense, says to the victims that they are to blame in some way for what they endured because they came from, quote, troubled backgrounds. Here's another thing on that, which we need to focus on. There are many victims of this abuse who come from middle-class backgrounds, but have the additional layer of not wanting to speak up because they think that there is a type of survivor. Everyone's got to be from broken backgrounds. One more thing on that Pakistan Airlines story. It is extraordinary. We've also been told by Whitehall sources that the government was hoping to have a plan in place to deport all three of those men, who are offenders, I understand, from Rochdale, before Baroness Casey's audit was released next week. So they were hoping to make a strong announcement about deportations. It may come soon. They may have reached an agreement with Pakistan, but this country notoriously does not want to accept deportations. As I said before, we've only had one sent back to Pakistan since 2011. I'm aware of more cases of grooming gang offenders fleeing to Pakistan than being deported. We also heard last night from the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, who said it was pathetic that the government was getting on its knees and begging Pakistan to remove foreign rapists. We have reached out to the FCDO and to the Pakistani High Commission for comment, but we've yet to hear back from either.
All right, Charlie. We'll speak to you a little bit later on. For now, thank you.
It's exhausting listening to everything you have to say because there's so much, but don't get exhausted. There's so much more to do, very clearly, isn't it? And we're very glad you're on top of it for us.
Right, let's have a look at the weather for you. Here's Jonathan Vautry.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. It has been quite an unsettled start to summer so far, but increasingly we're going to see things calm down as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. It's slow progress though, so we do still have this weather front first thing this morning, providing some outbreaks of rain, generally light rain for Northern Ireland and areas of western Scotland. It will slowly move its way southeastwards, spreading into parts of Northern England and Wales as we head into the afternoon. A few showers also developing for central England, those pushing their way into southeastern areas as we head into the afternoon. But between that, for a good chunk of England, there will be some sunny spells developing. And in that sunshine, it will be feeling pleasantly warm. Highs of around 24, 25 degrees Celsius is certainly not too bad for the time of year, and with light winds as well. We'll eventually see high teens developing for Northern Ireland, parts of central and eastern Scotland, particularly once the sunshine starts poking its way through into the afternoon and early evening here. Outbreaks of rain still continuing on and off for the Northern Isles throughout the day, and we will start to see the cloud building this evening across western Scotland as we get our next band of rain slowly pushing its way in here. Those spells potentially turning heavy over the hills for a time. Elsewhere tonight, though, it will be staying dry, some clear spells. A few mist and fog patches are possible, but it's going to be relatively mild. Temperatures in double-digit figures for most of us as we start off the new working week. Those outbreaks of rain still continuing for western Scotland as we move throughout the day, so it will be fairly damp and dreary to come here. A bit of a brisk breeze along those coastal regions. But with that high pressure starting to develop in, there'll be a decent number of sunny spells in there for the bulk of Northern Ireland, England and Wales. Temperatures actually climbing up on what we're going to be seeing today, now seeing 26 degrees in the southeast, but even 20 possible for central, eastern Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. That high pressure then become increasingly dominant, and so the sunshine will become more prolonged and those temperatures also continuing to climb. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now at 7:23, it's time for our giveaway. It's not just any old giveaway. It's our biggest ever cash prize, £54,321. It could all be yours. Here's how you enter.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Do stay with us, because still to come, Aidan will be here with all of the sport. That's next.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Patrick Christys tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
Should we be paying more for the BBC, do you think?
Yes, in the short term. It's for a cost of a cappuccino a week. You don't only get all the television channels, you get all the radio channels, local news, you get the websites, you get World Service, a significant amount of that. You've got a vast range of things. It's not just a television licence. And the BBC licence fee, in real terms, has gone down about 40% in 15 years. What I think we need is 2 things. One is an immediate increase, significant increase, so we stabilise the situation.
Go on, how much, Roger? What's the fee?
Hold on.
Well, tell me how much.
Then, secondly, hold on. We need to have a proper debate publicly about whether we want public service broadcasting, how we want to deliver it, and how we want to pay for it. The BBC has cut as much as it can. We should now have a public debate about what we want.
OK. All right, the BBC's cut as much as it can. I mean, grief. I would love to try to see the BBC try to operate on the kind of budget...
I thought you were chairman, objective chairman here. It was a head-to-head with this lady, and you were going to be an objective chairman.
Yeah, well, you decided not to answer any of my questions. But anyway, June, I'll put this one to you. Well, what do you think about the money?
Yes.
June, what do you think about the money being paid for the BBC? Should we pay more?
In 2020, you lost 80, let's have a look, 80,000. And then by 2023 to 24, that went up to 500,000 licence fees not being paid. That's because they don't want the product. A lot of the reason is the biased side of the news, which is why people watch GB News. The programme making, I can understand the creative part of it, but what you've got to look at from the public's point of view is they pay their licence whether they're using all those facilities or not.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Aidan's here with all the sports, 7:28. Morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Can we talk Club World Cup? Because that's getting under... I mean, it's a comparatively sort of newish thing. It's just a money grab.
Yeah, it looks like it, Stephen. I mean, quite frankly, you know, we've discussed many times on this desk, haven't we? We've had leading managers from the Premier League clubs and elsewhere in Europe and players saying, we're not performing seals, you know, we're not getting paid enough for what we do. You're loading fixtures on us. You're clogging up the schedule. It's taking a toll on our body. I've always responded to you two, whenever you said that, quite rightly, because you're speaking on behalf of the fans, actually, when you say that. But I've always responded by saying, look, it doesn't matter how much you pay someone, this human body can only go through so much. That argument completely falls down when these clubs take £100 million prize money, or that's what's up for grabs, and they go to Miami and take part in this competition, which is about 4.5 weeks long, and all the top players are expected to be there. And it just seems they found time in the schedule when they really wanted to.
Yeah.
And look, apart from anything else, they struggled to sell TV rights for this. Now, DAZN eventually took it up, but FIFA, there's speculation that FIFA just kind of shoved it their way for a knockdown price. They didn't go for the market price, and so they struggled to get it to be shown on television. We saw tickets advertised over the weekend. So the first match was Inter Miami against Al Ahly from Qatar. From Saudi, actually, sorry, and they struggled to sell tickets for that. They were advertising tickets to see Lionel Messi play for Inter Miami for $4 in the last few days.
Oh.
The official attendance last night was given as 60,000. It did not look like 60,000 in that stadium.
What's gone wrong then?
Well, they just can't... there's no appetite for it. A lot of fans think, as Stephen said, it's just a cash grab. What's going on here? Because
also, Miami seems a bit of an odd place, frankly.
It does, but it's just the glitz, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got David Beckham's there as well. And also, from a Premier League point of view, or even the domestic leagues around Europe, what sort of product are we going to see next season if these players are taking part in these events? We know from World Cups that when players start the following season, they haven't had enough rest. So they're slow to start. If you've got all these clubs over in Miami now, and, all right, they could treat it as like the way it could be a substitute for pre-season, but it's more intense than that. You could see they're flat out and absolutely fatigued and wiped out by about October. That's not good for the domestic game.
It's greed, isn't it?
It's totally greed, Anne. I do, and I've lost respect for them. And all the times I've defended them and said, look, you can't put their bodies through that. You've got to protect them. I've seen all the sports science arguments for it. It's been put in front of my eyes many, many times. But when that common argument comes back and says, is this about cash? It's very difficult to disagree with that.
Yeah. All right, can we talk Bath? Because,
yes.
I mean, they've had a 29-year-long wait.
1996. Outstanding stuff. Well, look, they fought off. It was Twickenham yesterday. I was in a few pubs around south-west London yesterday. I couldn't believe...
Bet you were.
couldn't believe it. People spilling out of the pubs watching this. And this is club rugby.
Yeah.
It's had a torrid time in recent years. The international game is stellar. Everyone is interested in the Lions, which starts off next week. Everyone's interested when England play. You pack out pubs. It's a long time since I've seen pubs packed out for a domestic league game. So Leicester are the team who've won the Premiership more times than anyone else, 11 times. So they're always going to be tough in the final. Bath were absolutely outstanding. No, 23-21 they won in front of a packed crowd at the Allianz Arena in Twickenham, or Twickenham as we know it. And they haven't just won the league title either. They've also done the trebles. They've done it in style. They won, in addition to the Premiership title, they won the European Challenge Cup and the Premiership Rugby Cup as well. So all three, and as I say, they've had a long, long wait for that. And we've had club sides beset with financial problems, low crowds. There's evidence here that the heart is beating strong within club rugby. And we've also, even with England, they said last year the reason we can't produce players for the elite level is because the domestic game isn't producing players that are quite good enough. And hopefully that puts paid to that now, and the trajectory will be upwards.
Good.
And can we talk darts? Because both Lukes are out.
They are. Well, they're the overwhelming favourites for the World Cup of Darts.
Well, they got their MBEs. They don't need to do anymore.
Well, look, far be it from me to speculate they might want to head home and have a party.
Yeah.
But they lost 8-4. But as I say, they're overwhelming favourites. And Peter Wright, the former champion, was vilified about 3 days ago when he said, these two aren't going to work as a partnership. And everyone said, well, they're overwhelming favourites. They're the two best players in the world. Of course they're going to work as a partnership. They lost 8-4 against two players who were ranked probably high 20s, low 30s. And, you know, it didn't look good. But, look, I mean, don't forget, England are the big winners of this as well. They won it. They were going for a record-equalling sixth crown. And, look, we can speculate all we want, but, I mean, if you think you're getting... If you know you've got an MBE at that age, you might want to come home and celebrate. Especially if you've had a good year already.
Yeah. And before we let you go... Emma Raducanu.
Yeah, more good news. Don't.
So she's pulled out of this week's Berlin Open.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Anne about this offset this morning, and you said that, you know, she's already doing Eastbourne, there's Wimbledon Stars.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Actually.
I think it's a sensible decision, given that she has an ongoing problem with her lower back, that she pulls out of this one. This is Berlin, which is upcoming this week.
And she's only 22, you know.
I know.
Heck of a lot of pressure on her already.
I know. And these courts are unforgiving. They really are. There's no give in these courts, so they're always going to... I mean, whether it's hard service, whether it's grass, whether it's plexi-pave, whether it's red grass, whether it's clay...
Next week should be the Berlin Open, but then after that it's Eastbourne straight away, and then you're into the run-up to Wimbledon.
She decided to swerve Nottingham this week and go to Berlin, but she's not physically able to do Berlin. Rest is key.
Yes.
I know we made that argument for the football.
Are you softening towards her then?
Yes, I'm...
Because you were furious when she let down Andy Murray.
Yeah, but I wasn't furious at her because of her tennis.
Judy Murray was furious.
Yeah, it was just because of she didn't sort of, I don't know, she was unfortunate in her choice of words or whatever, and the look was not good, that she couldn't be bothered almost to turn up for Andy Murray's final match.
But Anne's not an ex, so I took all the heat.
Yeah, that's right. But her tennis is very up and down, but when it's up, it's good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But and we need to look at it over the course of the year. It's been significantly up on where it's been in previous years. I mean, we still don't have the settled backroom staff, but we're hopefully getting towards that. She quite likes to change her personnel now and again. Yeah. Some players are like that. Djokovic dispenses with coaches very often, and he's won 24 Grand Slams.
And she may be in love, according to the gossip mongers yesterday.
Well, we're not gossip mongers on this desk, so...
No.
No. All right, Aidan, we'll see you a little bit later. Thank you very much indeed. In just a moment, we'll go through the papers with Christo Fufa and Nikki Hodgson. That's coming up in just a moment.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
7:38, time to go through the papers with the journalists Nikki Hodgson and Christo Foufas.
That's it. You can say it.
I keep calling him Foufaf, but it's only because it's not. I know what it is, Christo.
What is it?
It's because I just can't get it out. It's tripping over my teeth.
Oh, OK.
Your name's the problem, obviously.
It's your name which is a problem.
It's my name.
Could you change it
Just
slightly?
call me Diamond. I would love. That's
Diamond.
a beautiful surname,
But
Diamond. It really is a great surname.
Isn't it fair to say a lot of your colleagues have called you Foufaf over the years?
Yes.
So I'm not technically wrong.
I arrived late. They said, stop Foufaffing.
Yeah.
So there we go.
I tell you what, though, let's start off with something very serious, obviously.
Yeah.
But I know you probably want to get your teeth into it. About Keir Starmer doing the U-turn, about the national inquiry into the grooming gangs. I mean, it's everywhere, but particularly on GB News.
Yes, well, of course, it's GB News have played a massive part in making this happen, and this has been a story that has been rumbling on for years. I've been trying to talk about it on various shows I've presented for a long time, and of course, you and I worked together probably nearly 10 years ago on ITV Daytime on Loose Women, and we were putting Maggie Oliver and victims on that show then, and every time we thought, oh, great,
this will make a
big difference, and then it would fall away and nothing would happen.
I don't know how Maggie Oliver keeps going, because she must have been through this so many times, thinking she was going to make a breakthrough, and then it just sort of fell into nothingness.
But it speaks very highly of her that she never gave up. She never gave up on the victim. She's an incredible woman.
The only thing is that she is, from what I understand, a little cynical about another inquiry, though, because, of course, it's brilliant, it keeps it in the news, it's brilliant, it'll hold people to account, but will this be another, there'll be lessons learned, and then nothing
Well, we've got to
changed
make
at all?
sure it doesn't.
Yeah, I agree.
And I sort of partly think it is down to us as, I mean, not only as news people, but actually just as people in our country to make sure that this doesn't just fall away.
Oh, hang on, doesn't that make us all far right?
Well, this is...
Well, it did 24
problem.
hours ago, yes.
This is what I can't get my head around with it. And, you know, because I do think we are cynical, but I think we should... Firstly, we should be applauding this and saying, brilliant, it's happening.
Yeah.
But then, as a secondary point, you say, but why were you saying we were all far right for asking for it?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the other thing to think about as well is that we are just so bad at talking about child sexual abuse. But the reality is the NSPCC report that 1 in 20 children in this country are sexually abused. That is an appalling statistic, and we don't interrogate that enough.
And when you add in the potential race element to this, that
makes it a double taboo.
Even more difficult for people.
But it shouldn't be. It can't be for the sake of our
children. That should be why we talk about it more.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's outrageous, and it is an absolute national scandal. And there's also a really great piece on the GB News website at the moment of the number of Labour front benchers that called everyone far right who are calling for this inquiry. You've named and shamed them.
Oh, good.
And so, they're all far right too.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Apparently now.
This is the problem, I think, with all of this. And it's the idea as well, because it's... I mean, my concern, though I think it needs to happen, is that there's going to be... I mean, people in councils up and down the country who are literally going to have to be hauled out of their positions. And police and everything else, in that when you have, as Charlie was saying earlier on, a 10-year-old victim who was initially labelled as a prostitute.
Yes.
I mean, on what planet is anybody doing that? And whoever's done, they need to be hauled out and shoved in front of a court themselves.
Yeah, and that tells you something, though, about the institutionalised misogyny that there is, especially against female victims, against girls.
And classism as well. It's the fact that they are a certain demographic of girl, and that must mean that they are consenting or that they want to, or there is no such thing as a child prostitute.
They're children, that's it.
Talking of misogyny...
Yes.
In The Observer, you're going to have to explain this one to me.
I will.
Mothers, Nikki, take a bigger pay cut if their first child is a daughter rather than a son.
Well, this is boggling. And obviously, you know, I talk about gender stuff all the time, and I've never heard of this before. But this is to do with... it's connected to a study done at the University of Essex over a 10-year period between 2009 and 2019, so... take COVID and all that stuff out of it. And what it's found is that we don't know why, but women's pay goes down by a greater percentage if they have a firstborn daughter rather than a firstborn son. And the only potential reason that the researchers at the moment can give is because we somehow seem to think unconsciously that girls need more protection. So women feel more obliged to stay at home with them longer. But it's a really boggling piece of research.
It's astonishing.
The gap in earnings, it's basically like 30% difference in the pay, right? I mean, I have a daughter, we all know, firstborn daughter. I've been working at GB News 6 weeks after giving birth. My pay hasn't gone down, just for the record.
You never stopped.
I never stopped. But you know, obviously this is a proper piece of academic research over a long period. We really need to find out why. It's absolutely boggling.
It's weird and frightening.
Yeah.
And it does need... Things like that do need to be looked at.
Yeah.
Even though it is, as I say, very academic in a way. But we're going to take a short break there, you two, but don't go anywhere because Christo and Nikki are going to be back with more papers for you in just a moment. But first, though, if you want a bit of holiday sun, here's a European forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If it's heat you're after, then the Mediterranean is the place to be over this forthcoming week. We are going to be seeing temperatures climb over the next few days. Worth noting that heat could spark off a few showers and thunderstorms in places, but generally there will be plentiful amounts of sunshine for many of these countries if you are heading out. The peak of the heat likely to be on Wednesday at this point, for inland areas in particular, seeing 35 to 40 degrees Celsius.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
You also represented Cerys Vaughan, who was the 18-year-old young woman who was banned by the FA from playing football for pointing out that there was a man, a biological male, on the opposite team. There's been a successful finding, and that, although actually it doesn't seem to be that it was that they admitted culpability, it was that the person involved in the case withdrew their complaint.
Yes, well, it was a bit of a drawn-out process for poor Cerys because she went through the process of being told that she had, in fact, broken the rules through a hearing that took place, and then she had to appeal that decision.
And I heard that the initial hearing was like 3 hours long, and she was crying. And...
Yes, so there were no adjustments made for Cerys at the time. We found out later, or she got a diagnosis later, that suggested she was suffering with autism.
And she was only 17 at the time.
And she was only 17, so she was still a minor. But we contended that it was procedurally unfair. At the time she was questioned, she got very tearful, and the tribunal at that point decided not to continue with the hearing rather than provide some form of adjustment to enable her to continue giving evidence, and that in itself was unfair. So we were able to successfully help her appeal. And yes, you're absolutely right. At the end, it was that the original decision was considered to be an unfair decision based on a procedural unfairness, and so a new hearing was actually due to take place. Obviously, we try and take on cases that we think fit within the free speech arena. And we do have a lot of cases come in, and we try and help people as much as possible. There are occasions when cases come to us and we see very clearly it's not one for us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools? What on earth is going on? Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
So we're going through the papers with Christo and Nikki. Can we have a look, Christo, at the Sunday Telegraph and RAF jets being sent off to the Middle East? We're being told this is contingency support.
Yes, and to defend British interests should skirmishes between the two powers, Israel and Iran, escalate. This was Keir Starmer making this statement yesterday on a government plane. Now, there are these G7 talks that are on the horizon as well about all of this. Israel and Iran, of course, it was Friday that it really started to escalate. It's a worry. Some people are cynical, you know, over all of these jets going out there to start to prepare for us potentially having some sort of involvement. It's really difficult because on the one hand, you know, Iran, no one looks at Iran thinking that it's a state that is not a bit unhinged. Of course, there have been many foiled terror attacks by Iran towards the UK, 20, I think, were at the last count from the MI5 boss. But of course, a lot of people, myself included, will be absolutely exhausted at the thought of Britain once again intervening in a Middle East country and getting involved after the disaster of Iraq, and the questions about why are we always the ones that need to be the getting involved in it?
Well, it's interesting because we were talking to Vahid Beheshti earlier on, and he was sort of saying, actually, if you solve the Iranian problem, that brings peace not only to the region, but actually change the whole dynamic of how even the West is going to operate in terms of the terror threats and all the rest of it. It takes so much out of the equation. But crucially, of course, I mean, he is a part of the Iranian opposition. But he says the people of Iran are desperate for this. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if...
But with bombs falling on their heads, how desperate will they be?
But the other thing to say, Stephen, is can we solve the problem? I think the cat's out of the bag. You know, whatever Israel said about bombing the lead scientist, what you think there isn't, some kind of secret file relating to all the research they've done about how to develop the bomb anyway. It's going to happen now. It's going to happen whether we like it or not.
Not if you get rid of the regime.
But you also have to get rid of all the associated terrorist groups in the region. And it's way more widespread than you think. It's not just Iran.
That create the power vacuum we saw in Iraq and Syria, where we got rid of the regime, and actually it was the regime that was keeping all of those...
Exactly. What fills it?
The IS and all of those in check. So, and do you have confidence in our leaders to have an exit plan as well?
Well, no, I don't. But what do you do? Because it's that difficult situation. What do you say? We leave it as the status quo,
We try to de-escalate. We have to.
You can't de-escalate.
The doomsday clock is at 89 seconds to midnight. Actually, the world has never been as dangerous in the 20th or 21st century.
So hold on, though. How do you de-escalate a situation where Iran says they're only developing, nuclear energy?
Yep.
Which requires uranium to be enriched to 3.7%, and they've enriched it by their own admission to 60%, and could actually be well higher. So they're heading towards nuclear weapons.
Remember, 10 years ago, we did a deal with Iran. that was to, stop at a precipice point. And it was about having a relationship with them, right? So they didn't feel that somebody was just going to bomb them. Netanyahu has done the world a massive disservice by just bullying in, and that's to do with him trying to maintain his power amongst his people.
There are others who say he's exactly the opposite. Netanyahu is doing all the hard lifting at the moment to save us all from Armageddon, from a completely chaotic nation.
In my opinion, all he cares about is his legacy and about holding on to power with an increasingly irate Israeli public.
I think it is fair to be cynical about the timing of this from Netanyahu. I think that is absolutely a fair point. But I think also, would we trust Iran to do a deal? Would we trust Iran going forward? This is where I have to say, Donald Trump, the man who wants to do a deal with everyone, this could be his finest hour. He sat down with North Korea and actually, ended up talking to them when no one else would. Maybe this is the time where he should actually try and do some sort of deal.
But then you don't get rid of the regime.
You can't get rid of the regime.
Well, you can, because...
Well, we got rid of Saddam Hussein.
You can, in the sense that the vast majority of the Iranian people, it would seem, would want change.
But you can't get rid of the satellite regimes, which are the terrorists around. And you've got to get rid of it altogether. So how do you do that?
But they're not as powerful as Iran.
They're not as powerful, but they're even more bonkers. Sorry, excuse the language, they're even more mad.
Yeah. The problem is the power vacuum these things leave.
Yeah.
And we would have to have an absolute watertight strategy as to what to do long term, because in order to get rid of the regime would put up such a fight, and I'm not saying we shouldn't try and get rid of the regime, that the country would probably end up pretty much destroyed by war, and then we would need to be rebuilt. It would be rebuilt by... in Western values, for want of a better phrase.
Which is what it was like in the 60s and 70s.
But do you think that would... Did we end up safer as a result of Iraq? When you look at we're heading towards the anniversary of 7/7. Those were people who were radicalised by the narrative of a jihad against the Islamic countries. Now, again, I'm not saying that getting rid of the Iranian regime wouldn't be a good thing long term for the world to be safer, but in the short term, if we're foiling Iranian terror plots now, do you think that's going to reduce the number of terror plots?
What's the interim ruling party or government? Exactly. What's the alternative if we take the regime out?
But we've got to take a short-term view, haven't we? Because they are so near to developing nuclear weapons.
Well, we've got to de-escalate. We've got to do that no matter what.
All right, you two. One story's dominated all of that, but it was worthwhile doing. We'll see you later. Here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. It has been quite an unsettled start to summer so far, but increasingly we're going to see things calm down as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. It's slow progress though, so we do still have this weather front first thing this morning, providing some outbreaks of rain, generally light rain for Northern Ireland and areas of western Scotland. It will slowly move its way southeastwards, spreading into parts of northern England and Wales as we head into the afternoon. A few showers also developing for central England, those pushing their way into southeastern areas as we head into the afternoon. But between that, for a good chunk of England, there will be some sunny spells developing. And in that sunshine, it will be feeling pleasantly warm. Highs of around 24, 25 degrees Celsius is certainly not too bad for the time of year, and with light winds as well. We'll eventually see high teens developing for Northern Ireland, parts of central and eastern Scotland, particularly once the sunshine starts poking its way through into the afternoon and early evening here. Outbreaks of rain still continuing on and off for the northern Isles throughout the day, and we will start to see the cloud building this evening across western Scotland as we get our next band of rain slowly pushing its way in here. Those spells potentially turning heavy over the hills for a time. Elsewhere tonight, though, it will be staying dry, some clear spells. A few mist and fog patches are possible, but it's going to be relatively mild. Temperatures in double-digit figures for most of us as we start off the new working week. Those outbreaks of rain still continuing for western Scotland as we move throughout the day, so it will be fairly damp and dreary to come here. A bit of a brisk breeze along those coastal regions. But with that high pressure starting to develop in, there'll be a decent number of sunny spells in there for the bulk of Northern Ireland, England and Wales. Temperatures actually climbing up on what we're going to be seeing today, now seeing 26 degrees in the southeast, but even 20 possible for central, eastern Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. But high pressure then become increasingly dominant, and so the sunshine will become more prolonged and those temperatures also continuing to climb. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister U-turns on grooming gangs.
A national mandatory inquiry will be launched into the abuse scandal.
Well, it comes just months after Sir Keir Starmer described calls for an inquiry as jumping on a far-right bandwagon.
So will the victims of men like this finally get the answers they want and action?
Well, there is cautious optimism among survivors and their families this morning as they wake up to the news that there will be that judge-led inquiry. But will it ask the right questions and will it finally bring justice to thousands who've been denied it for so many decades?
Tensions soar as RAF jets are deployed to the Middle East amid fears of all-out war. It comes as multiple casualties have been reported in Israel in the latest wave of missile strikes from Iran.
Well, deeply alarming news coming out of Israel this morning, with the death toll rising to 10, at least 170 injured, with 20 more trapped under the rubble of an apartment complex.
Building British. The government will tell companies they must prioritise workers from the UK if they want to win contracts to build roads, hospitals and power plants.
I've earned the right to do whatever I want. Rory McIlroy reflects on his recent media blackout as he confirms he doesn't even want to be at the US Open. That's despite making the cut at Oakmont Country Club. Elsewhere, the two Lukes are out of the World Cup of Darts and Bath win the Rugby Union Premiership for the first time in 29 years.
yesterday's thundery start to the weekend, today offers something a touch calmer. Join me later for all the weather details.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
And a very happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. We've been asking for your messages and pictures this morning. So let's kick off with Carol, who sent this in of her dad. My wonderful dad, she says, who passed away 3 years ago. There he is as a young man in his army get-up. Treasure your fathers, says Carol, if you still have them with you, not just today, but every day.
We've had a lot of service photographs, haven't
yeah.
we? And another one from Rosemary. My ex-RAF dad, David, who left us this year in January at the age of 94. It's our first Father's Day without him.
I've got a lovely picture of him in his casual gear, on holiday perhaps there, but 94, a grand age. She goes on to say, a great, great man and a bit of a looker in his youth. But there he is in his RAF uniform. Definitely a looker. Happy Father's Day to all the dads. Show them your love and appreciation while you can.
And then there's this one from Ian. He says, my proud, outstanding dad, Eric, on the 80th VE Day anniversary, as a veteran who me and my siblings owe everything to him and my mother. Oh, it's a lovely photograph.
It's a lovely shot. What I like about all these messages is it's that level of respect. And I think there's respect is something which we are losing in this country towards the older generation. And we should have respect for our elders. And as much as you love and get on with your parents, you need to respect them as well. And I don't know if that's failing a little bit amongst our youth at the moment. Maybe it'll all come back. I hope so.
Yeah, we need more fantastic fathers, don't we, in this country?
Yes, we do.
We need to celebrate them. Anyway, today is the day to celebrate them. And if you've got a father who's still around, then make them feel special today.
Now, in a major U-turn, the Prime Minister has announced a national inquiry into grooming gangs.
Now, this comes in response to Baroness Casey's recommendation, who has been undertaking a national audit into the scandal.
Well, the Conservative Party and Reform UK are now demanding Sir Keir Starmer apologise because he initially rejected the move only a few months ago, allowing 5 councils to set up their own investigations.
Yes, if you remember, the government dismissed calls at the start of the year, claiming a 7-year inquiry had already been led by Professor Jay.
Well, Baroness Casey's report is expected to be released this week, and we suspect it will link the scandal to men of Pakistani origin.
With the very latest with us now to discuss this is GB News' national reporter, Charlie Peters. When do you think you'll be able to get your hands on this report?
Well, hopefully as soon as tomorrow morning, and we do anticipate that it will be utterly damning for the whole system, for how Britain engages with this issue right across the country, because we know this isn't isolated to a few northern towns and cities or Telford in the West Midlands. This goes all the way from Plymouth up to Glasgow, 50 different towns and cities we've found affected by this. And now the politics on how they engage with it is very difficult, because in a matter of months, we've gone from the government describing a national inquiry as a distraction, something that will get in the way of action, that we don't need more inquiries, we just need to get on with the recommendations, to now those same politicians, within 100 days, saying this is now absolutely vital for survivors to get the information they need. We need to act on new information that's come forward. While I think that Baroness Casey's report will be damning and more information will be there, there is already plenty gathered over the years to show that we know that already.
Well, that was going to be my point. Whatever comes out in Baroness Casey's report, it is surely unlikely to say a great deal more than we've been saying on this channel for months, years, actually.
I completely agree, Stephen. And I think what they'll also say is, what Baroness Casey is likely to find is, I've gone to so many authorities and police forces and they just can't tell me what I need to know. I think that's going to be the real kicker, that there'll be a lack of information. Not that she'll bring in forward lots, but actually she'll say, well, only a third of police forces are still recording data on ethnicity properly when dealing with perpetrators. Or certain police forces just aren't looking at this properly. They've not learnt lessons. They're still using the wrong language about victims as survivors. For example, during that independent inquiry into child sexual abuse that you referred to in the intro, the Alexis J report, they looked at just 6 areas when they assessed grooming gangs as part of a 2-week subsection of a sub-report. It was a very small part of that 7-year-long inquiry. Now, South Wales Police came forward and gave evidence as part of that process, and they said, we've got no grooming gangs in our area. Which is just palpably false. We've spoken on this channel to survivors from South Wales who were trafficked right across the country and endured horrific abuse. So, if
and Telford, didn't they hold Telford up as an example of where it's been looked into, it's been investigated, and now there's no problem?
Yeah, the government has always said that local inquiries are what we need. They looked to the 2022 report in Telford, but just last week we had a survivor from Telford, a very brave woman called Corinne, who was living in a scenario where her son was being raised in Egypt and she was unable to look after him because she still feared for her life. Her perpetrators hadn't been prosecuted. Just 7 convictions in Telford, over 1,000 victims. How can that be seen as a model of success? It's a remarkable claim to make for a government to stake their reputation on this issue.
You've got the whole point of these local inquiries, and we've said this for months now. The problem with the local inquiries, it's like asking something corrupt to investigate itself.
Totally. Well, they'll always say they'll have an independent investigator as part of them, but it won't have those statutory powers. And that's been a key point for so many of the survivors and their families and the campaigners that work with them. They always say that when you have a local inquiry, you get some truth. You get information that can come forward. You don't get the full truth and you don't get justice because people aren't held to account for this. In Rotherham, for example, which is the town which has had the most investigation, for sure, over 1,500 victims identified. There was the IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct report called Operation Linden. That found some 40 or so police officers guilty of gross misconduct. Only 5 received any punishment, and the most severe punishment was a written warning. I mean, these were police officers who saw girls being abused in cars and walked away and did nothing. This is really appalling to have that level of investigation and so little punishment for it.
Have we all been, very much so, including the victims, have we all been gaslit? Because whenever a concern has been raised, they seem to be able to, or somebody seems to be able to turn the tables on you and say, you're the problem. Okay. There is no problem, but you're the problem for saying there is a problem.
I think there's a lot to that. And there's this other very strange rhetorical device that people deploy when we engage with this specific issue. This is a very unique form of abuse. Group-based, group-localised child sexual exploitation, on-street grooming. The method has changed with the advent of social media and the rise of smartphones in the last 2 decades. But still, the core process of grooming a child, making them feel as though they are loved, manipulating them and then exploiting them, that's a very specific form of abuse. And it also has, in this case, ethnicity and cultural factors, how that interlinks as well. But whenever you talk about it, people always do this rhetorical device. They zoom out. They say, what about all other forms of child abuse? They say, what about how white men are the most abusers in the country in general? But actually, we do need to zoom in. We need to give a rifle shot on this issue because when we zoom out, we miss detail. We fail to look into this properly. People are always trying to say, what about something else? It's about time, frankly, Stephen and Anne, that we say, what about this?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's a fair argument to say it all needs to be looked at. Of course it does, but this is a specific issue because, as you say, what is difficult for a lot of us to get our heads around is the idea of a level of abuse which is coordinated in a way most of us can't imagine, which does seem to be, and it's the difficult area, does seem to be a cultural issue within a certain part of Pakistani community, for a certain region in Pakistan where it seems to be a cultural thing. And that's proving to be a very thorny issue. But if you don't address it head on, you don't get anywhere with it.
People hiding from that issue are making it worse. It's as simple as that. And at the same time, they're nervous of causing a negative reaction, say, from British Pakistanis, which I think is a false approach. They're also nervous about civil unrest should the truth come out. And that's been sort of mooted over the weekend with some of the reports from the papers on what Baroness Casey might say. Downing Street reportedly very concerned about Southport-style disorder over this issue. But here's the thing. If you ignore a crisis of this scale, with the number of victims that it involves, the amount of cover-ups involved as well, if you ignore that, the monster grows, anger grows. The only way to prevent disorder and frustration and disunity and community rupture is to confront things head on. And actually, when this channel ran some polling on this issue in January on a national inquiry, we found overwhelming national support from all backgrounds, all ages, genders, races, religions on a national inquiry. And in fact, when it came to support for the death penalty for grooming gang offenders, we found that ethnic minority Britons were more likely to support that level of punishment, very severe, than white Britons. So people who are saying we can't deal with this problem because it might upset people, they're just false.
I mean, we've also been led to believe, haven't we, that the children involved, the girls involved, came from very poor families. They had a very bad upbringing, almost implying that it's their fault and these things happen. Not that they were victims. And in one instance, as you were telling us earlier, a 10-year-old girl was described, was it by police, as a prostitute?
Yeah, that's Girl A from the recent trial for 7 men convicted in Rochdale, who was described by the local authorities in Rochdale as being a prostitute when social workers were aware of this issue. But that language is not isolated to that case. That's widespread. And that was only 20 years ago. And that mode of thinking might have changed in some places, but I don't think in all. And I think, as you're saying, Anne, they do look at these children as being troubled, as essentially getting themselves into difficult situations with men who are out to get them. But that's victim blaming. We don't do it when we say, oh, you shouldn't go out wearing that skirt, you might get targeted. So why on earth do we say to children who have no say about this whatsoever that they are in some way to blame? And on the thing about families, I just got to say this about families. Last night, we were very lucky to have lots of survivors and their families join us on GB News. We break the news about this judge-led inquiry. We spoke to a father called Ian, who was telling us about his efforts to try and protect his daughter Ellie. That's a loving family. That's not a troubled family. They came from Barrow in Cumbria. They have a beautiful family. They work hard. Everything there is good. But because the authorities did not protect his daughter, appalling things happened to them. I know of fathers, again, in safe, loving, stable households who were arrested by the police when they tried to save their daughters. So when people say it's troubled families, no, it's troubled authorities.
But actually, even when there are so-called troubled families or children who've had a very bad upbringing or, you know...
Or they're in care homes,
or in care homes. Actually, these are the people we should be protecting most of all. Not saying, oh, well, they're just that type.
They're still children and they're being raped.
Yes. A couple of months ago, we had a survivor from Oldham speaking out for the first time. We went to Oldham with her. We spent some time with her father. When she was taken from a care home, he would drive out all night with his motorbike gang. It's a remarkable story. He took us back to the streets where he hunted for her for the first time in 20 years. You could feel his heart racing in the car as he drove us around because he hadn't been back to those places in 2 decades. His daughter was in care. She needed support from the state. But when she went missing or when she was taken away aged 13 and manipulated by gross gangs, some of these men, by the way, were married, some of these perpetrators. They had families of their own. The authorities just looked the other way and police officers said, well, we can't really deal with this. That survivor was never part of the Oldham inquiry, another local inquiry. There's going to be another investigation on Oldham now, and now this national level. In every single town where this has been an issue, we haven't had proper investigation. I just pray now that we get it.
Within all of this, though, and to take a bit of a step back away from the actual horror of what has gone on and what is continuing to go on, politically, there's a huge problem here, and we've said it many times, but the fact that Keir Starmer said if you are calling for a national inquiry, you are jumping on a far-right bandwagon. Now, politically, I don't know how he pulls himself out of that.
Well, he's a lawyer. That's what he's trained to do, go through process. Now, the accusation coming from Kenny Badenoch is that he's a lawyer, not a leader. But you have to say that even if it's taken him a long time and he's made a vast political switch on this, he is still the only Prime Minister who's ever ordered a judge-led inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. And there are plenty of Labour MPs and indeed peers like Maurice Glasman, the Blue Labour Lord, who use far stronger language on the grooming gangs than a lot of Tory MPs ever bothered when they were in power. So I think politically it is difficult considering the strength of the language he used in January. That was a mistake. And we had Paul Waugh, the Labour MP for Rochdale, on last night, who basically said, yes, he was trying to say something else, but he got it wrong. But there are still lots of Labour MPs who've been calling for a national inquiry for a very long time. It was unpopular to do this 2 years ago, and they were doing it. It's now taken on a lot of political public pressure, and suddenly more Conservative MPs have found the interest. 2 years ago, we launched our investigation on this, and we revealed over 50 different towns and cities were involved, Suella Braverman, and then Home Secretary, launched the Grooming Gangs Task Force, well over 1,000 arrests now. But when she said that men of Pakistani origin were overrepresented, which is now common language that everyone is using, everyone recognises that issue, and Baroness Case is going to use it, this government is using it. When she said that, Suella Braverman, I couldn't find a single Tory MP to back her up in public. They were terrified. Her own Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, did not want to engage with the question. He failed to support her when reporters pressed him on it. So, in many ways, yes, Sir Keir Starmer has made a radical shift on this from January. But he has actually done more on this than the Conservatives did.
But as you said at the very beginning, what you've got to do now, all journalists particularly and activists on this, have got to make sure it's the sort of inquiry you want, that the right questions are asked and that people are hauled into court.
Yeah, and we need to ensure that we give confidence to survivors and their families that they can trust this inquiry. We had Alan Collins, a solicitor from Hugh James last night, who's worked with sexual abuse survivors for decades, and he told us that if it gets too political now, if we have too much engagement from politicians, that could push survivors away. Right. This needs to be a process that is about engagement now, about this is their chance to bring their stories forward. And I hope also it leads some people who don't want to come forward to be dragged in front of a judge, forced to give evidence for the first time. If that happens, then we could be onto something quite extraordinary here.
All right, Charlie, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We'll talk a little bit later on. Right, it's 18 minutes past 8. Let's have a look at the weather with Jonathan.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. It has been quite an unsettled start to summer so far, but increasingly we're going to see things calm down as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. It's slow progress though, so we do still have this weather front first thing this morning, providing some outbreaks of rain, generally light rain for Northern Ireland and areas of western Scotland. It will slowly move its way southeastwards, spreading into parts of Northern England and Wales as we head into the afternoon. A few showers also developing for central England, those pushing their way into southeastern areas as we head into the afternoon. But between that, for a good chunk of England, there will be some sunny spells developing. And in that sunshine, it will be feeling pleasantly warm. Highs of around 24, 25 degrees Celsius is certainly not too bad for the time of year, and with light winds as well. We'll eventually see high teens developing for Northern Ireland, parts of central and eastern Scotland, particularly once the sunshine starts poking its way through into the afternoon and early evening here. Outbreaks of rain still continuing on and off for the Northern Isles throughout the day, and we will start to see the cloud building this evening across western Scotland as we get our next band of rain slowly pushing its way in here. Those spells potentially turning heavy over the hills for a time. Elsewhere tonight, though, it will be staying dry, some clear spells. A few mist and fog patches are possible, but it's going to be relatively mild. Temperatures in double-digit figures for most of us as we start off the new working week. Those outbreaks of rain still continuing for western Scotland as we move throughout the day, so it will be fairly damp and dreary to come here, a bit of a brisk breeze along those coastal regions. But with that high pressure starting to develop in, there'll be a decent number of sunny spells in there for the bulk of Northern Ireland, England and Wales. Temperatures actually climbing up on what we're going to be seeing today, now seeing 26 degrees in the southeast, but even 20 possible for central, eastern Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. That high pressure then become increasingly dominant, and so the sunshine will become more prolonged and those temperatures also continuing to climb. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, and now to our biggest cash prize to date. 54321 could be your countdown. That's £54,000, 321. Am I right? Yeah,
yes.
It is, yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely. What would you do with it? Well, you can dream or you can take part and see if you can make it yours.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance chance to win £54,321 cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come for you, tensions soar as RAF jets are deployed to the Middle East. We'll bring you more in a moment.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Well, Parliament is going to debate whether halal slaughter should be banned. The debate will take place next month. It comes as the method required to produce halal meat is non-stun slaughter, which some argue is too painful for the animal.
Well, a government petition calling for its ban has exceeded 100,000 signatures, and activists say that animal welfare must come before religious exemptions. So we're asking, should halal slaughter be banned in the UK?
Let's talk to the political commentator Charlie Downs and the co-chairman of the Muslim Jewish Forum, Greater Manchester, Mohammed Amin. Mohammed, if we could talk to you first, could you just explain what it involves, the slaughter, when it's a halal?
Yes, both halal slaughter, which is practiced by Muslims, and kosher slaughter, which is practiced by Jews, involve killing an animal that is otherwise fully conscious by cutting its throat with, in the Jewish case, they're very strict about a single cut. Islam is not as strict about whether it's a single cut or multiple cuts, and then the animal bleeds to death and dies.
It sounds cruel.
It sounds cruel, but when people have tried to carry out tests to assess levels of pain using electrodes in the brain, etc., there's no evidence that it is actually cruel that animals suffer any more pain than if they're killed by, for example, having a bolt through the head.
Well, can you just explain the religious significance of why you do it that way? What is the point? Why couldn't you just do it in a more, some would argue, humane way? Is there a religious significance?
Yes, there is a religious significance. If you pick up and read your Old Testament, you will see a clear categorical prohibition against consuming blood.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 8:25. Now, RAF jets and military assets are being deployed to the Middle East following Iran's warning that the UK and its allies will be targeted if they help stop missile attacks on Israel.
Well, overnight, the two states have continued strikes on each other, with Iran's president threatening a more severe response.
Well, that warning coincides with world leaders gathering in Canada. It's the G7. Where our political editor, Christopher Hope, sent this update from.
The G7 in Canada is all back to the world stage. He said overnight to us that Canada is an independent and sovereign country and a much valued member of the Commonwealth. That needs to be said because Donald Trump covets this country as the 51st state of the United States of America. And over all that, the big issue here for the world leaders is what's happening in Iran and Israel. Overnight, the UK has sent RAF Typhoons to protect assets in the Middle East. It is getting very, very tense on a global stage, and that will dominate the G7 when it starts in earnest tomorrow.
Well, let's talk to our Home and Security editor, Mark White, who has some breaking news to bring us on that situation. What have you got to tell us, Mark?
Yeah, some very grim news coming from Israel this morning. The death toll has now risen to 10 after these ballistic missile strikes overnight from Iran, and not just from Iran. A ballistic missile also launched from Yemen over Israel as well. I think we can show you some shots of those ballistic missiles raining down on Israel, on parts of central Israel and on northern Israel as well. What we're told is that a number of apartment blocks were damaged. You're looking here at an apartment block at Bat Yam in Israel. This is actually just south of Tel Aviv, a city on the southern outskirts of Tel Aviv, and seems to be the epicenter of the biggest number of losses overnight. 6 people confirmed dead so far, with a direct strike on an apartment block that has collapsed. We're told by the commander of the Home Group Command, who has just given a short sort of video news conference, he said that other people had been pulled from the rubble. Unfortunately, 2 more victims that were dead had been pulled from the rubble within the last hour, but a survivor has also been pulled from the rubble. Having said that, there are at least 20 others still believed to be trapped under the rubble. We're getting reports as well of the recovery in Rehovot. Now that's nearby. It may be the same building. We're trying to bottom that out, but that's a survivor pulled from the rubble as well, and we're told that that survivor is an elderly gentleman, a Holocaust survivor. So you can imagine the shockwaves across Israel, because we are now being told that the number of injured could be north of 200. Direct hits here on civilian areas. This in Tamra in northern Israel, and of course Bat Yam in the sort of Tel Aviv greater metropolitan area. As for Iran, well, strikes are continuing on Iran, both overnight and again this morning. An oil depot in central Tehran was struck, and that oil depot was ablaze. Fierce fires that have been spreading within that oil depot, one of a number of structures and sort of infrastructure sites that have been struck by the Israelis in the last few minutes. The Israeli military have issued a warning to the Iranian people, to those living near munitions factories, missile factories, to evacuate their homes, because clearly that is next on Israel's target list. Iran say that dozens have been killed and hundreds injured over the last couple of days. Israel says it has not been deliberately targeting civilian areas. It has gone after regime leaders, military leaders and nuclear scientists. Some of those have lived, of course, in civilian areas, but for the most part they say they've been going after these key installations, both the fuel and the nuclear sites, as well as, of course, the missile launchers that have been sending these ballistic missiles over to Israel with, again, very deadly effect.
OK, Mark, thank you. Well, meanwhile, President Trump has revealed details of a 1-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin in which they agreed the conflict between Israel and Iran should end.
Posting details of this phone call he had on his Truth Social platform, the president also apparently urged Vladimir Putin to end the war between Russia and Ukraine.
It comes on the day the US Army took to the streets celebrating its 250th anniversary and the president's 79th birthday.
Let's get more with the chair of Republican Services UK, Greg Swenson. Greg, President Trump vowed he would end all wars almost on day one, and things are seemingly out of his control now.
Well, Anna, I think you said it well. Things are out of President Trump's control. He can't control Putin. I think that's the real wild card in Ukraine. And of course, he's done his best and gave every opportunity to the regime, to the mullahs, to stop working on their nuclear arms program, and they refused. So I think, the president has done his best. He's a pro-peace president, very much an anti-war president. He does believe in peace through strength, and I think we saw that in Washington yesterday. But, some things he can't control, and I think the wild cards here are the bad guys. And, let's remember, the bad guys are Putin, and the bad guys are the regime, the mullahs in Iran.
I'm slightly intrigued by this, the call and this comment that both the Kremlin and the White House think the conflict needs to come to an end between Israel and Iran. I mean, isn't there a sense in the White House that now that this has started, whether or not Trump approved of the timing, it's now or never to destroy this nuclear capability and, if you're going to do it, to have regime change?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the regime change because, again, that's not something that we can manage. And we've had some experience with that, and most of it negative. So I do think that it very well might be now or never. President Trump gave a 60-day ultimatum, and the mullahs chose not to meet it. So the timing is important. I'm not sure the president was against the timing. In fact, if anything, with that ultimatum, that red line, I think it was important that the timing, that it occurred quickly. So, of course, they're stating the obvious in that Truth Social post, both sides. Of course, nobody wants war to continue. We want the war to end. But I do think in this case, the Israelis would have been signing their own suicide note if they didn't take out the nuclear facilities.
Yeah, how much then will President Trump support Israel now? I mean, we're all being dragged into this to a certain extent, aren't we? But of course, everybody's looking to America to see just how involved they're going to be.
Yeah, the president has been pretty clear in his support for Israel. He mentioned it even in his own posts on Friday and Saturday that he is supporting that it's the U.S. that's delivering much of the equipment and the arms that Israel is using. So there's unquestionably no doubt that the president is on the side of Israel and will give them all the support he needs. He and Secretary of State Marco Rubio also issued a warning to Iran that if they go after U.S. assets or our allies, including the UK, that then that would be a very ugly outcome for Iran.
Well, yeah, I was going to say I thought it was a very odd, perhaps it was expected, but a very odd statement coming out of Tehran yesterday about that, when you bear in mind that you put together all the allies, but particularly the United States. I mean, Tehran's totally outmanned and outgunned, isn't it?
Yes, totally. And I think we saw that when the Israelis attacked some of their conventional military facilities a few months ago. They've done it twice over the last 6 or 8 months. And it showed that the Iranians were really weak militarily. I would argue that they should have hit the nuclear facilities then, but President Biden had pushed them not to do that, which doesn't really make sense. The most lethal and most dangerous of the Iranian assets, as it turns out, are the nuclear facilities. They're, much of their infrastructure proved to be pretty useless.
But we've already touched on this. If the aim is, yes, to destroy those nuclear assets, but also to try and achieve some sort of regime change, what's the plan? Is there one?
Well, I think there's probably a lot of scenarios that they've gamed out, that they've drawn out. And again, we, the U.S., don't really want to be in the regime change business. However, we would welcome it. And I think most of the Iranian people would welcome it as well. So this is the mullahs. We would all appreciate if the mullahs were no longer in power. It's something that we have to be careful about dictating too much, because you never know what's going to replace them. And I think that's the case with Russia as well. So, this is a delicate matter, but what's most important is that they do not have nuclear capability, most important for the survival of Israel, but also for the safety of our other allies in the Middle East.
Yeah. Greg, really good to talk to you, as always. Thank you very much indeed.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Right, it's 8:36. Still to come, Aidan will be here with all of the sport. That's coming up in just a couple of moments.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camila Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camila Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Aidan's here with all the sport. Morning.
Good morning again.
Who can do what on earth they want? Anything they want.
Not me, as you made a point you made forcibly to me this morning. But but no, Rory McIlroy has not been speaking to the media in the first couple of rounds of the US Open. He has said that he feels flat. I'll come to that at the moment. But there was a story written about his equipment inspection by the USPGA. They'd said that his driver wasn't up to scratch, and he wasn't. I mean, it seems quite innocuous. It's not a major story to me. But he wasn't happy with how it was covered, so he punished the media by not speaking to them for the first two rounds. And when quizzed on that yesterday, after what he described as a very average round, here's what he had to say.
I feel like I've earned the right to do whatever I want to do. Yeah. But it's not as if, like, at Augusta, I skipped you guys on Thursday. So, yeah, it's not as if it's not out of the ordinary. I've done it before. I'm just doing it a little more often.
So that's Rory McIlroy, somebody to me who seems a little bit kind of nonplussed about golf right now. He put so much mentally, psychologically even, he had professional help to try and surmount those final barriers to prevent him winning that final major. He completed the set, he completed golf, you know, in the same way you might complete a video game or something. But and don't forget, he waited, 11 years for that to happen. And I think it's a touch of the Andy Murray's in 2013. He went on a chat show soon after he won Wimbledon in 2013 and said, I kind of lost my hunger after that. I put so much into it. I kind of wanted to enjoy it a little bit. The problem here was after the Masters, you get 2 majors quite soon after. It's a bit like winning the French and going into the Wimbledon in tennis. So that's the obvious comparison because it's individual sport and there's majors. It's a similar kind of format. So I think he said, I feel a bit flat at the moment, I put everything into it. And it looks as if he's just going through the motions. He's 10 over par, so he's on the leaderboard, but he's nowhere near the top. And he said today, well, he said last night even, that 4.5 hours today, I'm hoping to be out of here.
Well, if you were advising him, you'd probably just say, yeah, take some time out.
Yeah.
Why not?
And I think, as
and
he
you
said,
don't have to put up with journalists' silly questions as well.
No, exactly.
Lots of people would say.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I don't think he gets fined for not turning up. But he's still doing his fair share. By the way, it's only 2 rounds. This is 2 days.
Yeah.
That he's not turned up. It's not as if he's been blanking them ever since. Actually, I do think he was blanking them during the USPGA, but I'm not completely sure about that. But nonetheless, he's in contention today, but only nominally. He's not going to be troubling the leaders by this evening. And we're underway at, I think, 8 minutes to 1 o'clock.
Didn't you think you were saying earlier maybe the 2 Lukes in the world of darts are thinking the same thing because they haven't got through?
We don't think much of our sports stars, do we, on this desk?
No, we do. Just appreciate the fact that why shouldn't they take a bit of time out and enjoy themselves?
Well, it's the World Cup of darts, and so some people would say it's important. And,
Yes.
And they got to the last 16. They were overwhelming favourites, don't forget. This is the problem they've created for themselves because they're so good that they were overwhelming favourites. Peter Wright, a former champion, said a couple of days ago, and he was vilified for this, saying, I don't think these two are going to... No, they're brilliant individual players, but the team ethic is slightly different. I'm not sure they'll gel. And they lost quite comfortably, quite easily last night to the German pair who are ranked significantly below them in the world rankings, and they're out. And I think maybe after when you're 18 and you get an MBE, maybe you might be tempted to go home and celebrate with your mate.
Yes, I would have thought
Possibly.
No, I'm sure he's put his all into it.
Yes, exactly.
But if he hasn't, he's still got time for a pint, honestly, because it is British Beer Day.
Yes.
Now, there's a conspiracy theory.
Well, we're out of time.
Oh, we out of time. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'll tell you more about that later then.
I'm off.
You're off.
You're off.
All right, see you later on. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, we've got the papers with Christo and Nikki in just a minute. First, though, there they are, looking very sweet on our red sofas. But first, though, if you want a bit of holiday sun, here's the forecast for the top European hotspots.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
If it's heat you're after, then the Mediterranean is the place to be over this forthcoming week. We are going to be seeing temperatures climb over the next few days. Worth noting that heat could spark off a few showers and thunderstorms in places, but generally there will be plentiful amounts of sunshine for many of these countries if you are heading out. The peak of the heat likely to be on Wednesday at this point, for inland areas in particular, seeing 35 to 40 degrees Celsius.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So this time last week, I was on this show and the video had just dropped of her twerking in the hospital suite when she was giving birth to Lily.
Should we remind ourselves of what that is before we get stuck into your analysis? Let's take a look.
She gon' do that, baby mama. Drop.
Oh, God, it's the song as well. It's so inane. Anyway, sorry, so what have you found out?
Well, this time last week I was on this show going, I don't know what she was thinking, why has she done this? It couldn't be more of an own goal. But I think it was actually tactical, because what I've since discovered is that she's about to reveal that she's going to make a rosé wine, and she's going to drop, in the next day or two, she's going to reveal more products from her, her business, as ever. And apparently there's going to be a different kind of jam, maybe a strawberry jam. There might even be a lemon curd.
What happened to the first jam?
It was sold out almost instantly.
Oh, it's popular?
Yeah, it was really popular. It sold out instantly.
What sort of loser buys that? Sorry. You've got to be a real loser to buy her stuff.
But my point is that actually I think she went viral on purpose, and she knows exactly what she's doing. Because she's about, at the end of the month, she's about to relaunch her website with all these new products to sell.
So you think it was calculated? You think she's got a new wine coming out, a rosé?
Yeah, and actually her team have counted this video as a win, because I must be getting old, because I thought it was the worst video. But apparently the Gen Zers loved it. They totally got it. They bought into it. Apparently it was her most successful social media post ever. And all the Americans apparently love it.
Hate watching. I've seen it a bunch of times. That's because I was hate watching it.
I guess it's any publicity is good publicity.
But isn't it about the difference in culture between the US and this country? I mean, I watched that and it's a bit icky. And I think, weird. But in the US, that kind of thing goes down well, and her big market is the US.
Exactly that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Right, we're going through the papers at 8:47 with the journalists Christo Fufas and Nikki Hodgson.
You did it.
I did it, got it right again. I'll tell you what, should we have something a little bit lighter? It's been a very heavy morning. So how about Nikki, starting with The Observer? And there's a new AI customer service on the train line, which is an app, isn't it, for buying your train tickets?
Yes. Can I just say that's annoyed me already? the AI customer service app. That's annoying me.
Well, look, AI can be fantastic when it's used in, for example, medicine or, things that are to do with predicting cancer in patients, etc. But it's not so good when it's the beta testing of the AI rolled out to certain passengers, giving all the wrong answers to people about whether they can use their ticket on a service, whether they can get away with a 16 to 25-year-old rail card when they're 30. There are so many basic errors in the AI that's been rolled out on the train line. And by the way, this happens all the time with AI. We talk about it as this incredible technological salve, but it's riddled with errors. And I just think, oh my goodness, train travel is complicated enough without us losing faith in it because we're getting the wrong information. And then you know what will happen? You'll have the wrong ticket, the train inspector comes, and then you have to pay up for the next fare. Just wait till it's ready.
That's what beta testing's for, though.
Yeah, but beta testing is for select passengers, and they need to know that it's beta, right?
I would beta test humans as well. I would put them through. If you work on customer service, you have to go through a beta test to find out whether you're competent, whether you can string a sentence together, whether you give the right information. I'm so sick of having to do those recorded. Can you give us your account number? And then you go through it all, and then you get through to the person. They say, right, can I get your account number? You say, well, I've just did it all.
And they also don't understand certain accents. If you have a short vowel, you must have had this, Stephen. If you speak in a northern accent, they can't understand you.
No. Well, I mean, in fairness, that's understandable.
Half the course, darling.
Oh, dear. Well, quite how we go from that to your shoes, Christo, in the Times.
Well, yes, you are right to bring up stilettos, because the founder... Well, I shouldn't say the founder of one of the most famous... Didn't found stilettos, but one of the most famous designer shoewear brands, Jimmy Choo, has said there are occasions where flat shoes are absolutely inappropriate.
Like what?
A state banquet, red carpet, formal ceremonies. These are times when an elegant pair of heels or formal dress shoes, that's a sign of respect for others. I could not agree more. When we were doing our wedding invites, we had a minimum 3-inch rule for ladies' heels.
I love it when men tell women what to wear.
We didn't end up doing that marriage in the end, but then we said, because we got married in a much smaller sense, but if we do the big ceremony again, we will have minimum 3-inch heels. And your face.
I couldn't cope. I'd have to say no, thank you. I wouldn't be able to come.
It does include a wedge.
No.
It does include a wedge.
Christo, this has to apply equally. Come on. It can't be men telling women to wear shoes that they're not going to wear themselves.
No, men aren't allowed to wear shorts as well, because you know when some men wear shorts with a suit.
It's not the same at
It's
all.
a dress code. It's a dress code. It's perfectly reasonable.
No, it's not.
Interestingly, Jimmy Choo, who I'd never heard of until Sex in the City, along with a lot of these things, said men should try it too.
Yeah, that's more like
3-inch heels.
Cuban heels.
So men need to wear heels.
Well, I mean, if you're asking me to, then I would.
Have you ever been, Nicky, to one of those do's where you wear heels, but then when you get there, you find that you have to put those little plastic things on?
Yes, if it's on
your heels, because otherwise you might wreck the floor.
Otherwise, you're tiptoeing around in your heels. I've got to be honest, I am actually wearing a pair of Jimmy Choos today. They were in the sale. I'm not paid that well. I'll show you my shoe. It's a lovely pink suede number.
Oh, nice.
And they're exceptionally comfy, I'll be honest. Jimmy Choos are made for comfort. But I'm not going to climb a mountain in them. No. And I'm not going to be told what to wear either.
But a formal banquet or red carpet event, I think it should be compulsory.
What a load of rubbish.
I just think they're bad for your feet, aren't they?
Men in the 16th and 17th century loved to wear a pair of heels. Let's just bring it all back. Well, think about the French court.
They wore heels.
Remember, they used to wear stacked shoes with heels. Marie Antoinette's
Did they?
courtiers.
Oh, try it.
Bring it back.
No, you don't need to get any taller,
I don't want to wear heels. I do like a pair of boots, though.
With a heel on them?
They give you an extra
with a
inch.
little bit of it, like a cowboy. I'm a bit of a cowboy. I like a cowboy boot.
I got my first cowboy boot a year ago when I went to Dallas, actually, and it was nice to have a bit of height.
And Cuban heels were so fashionable in the 60s. Everybody wore those.
Yeah, tell you what, while we've got the time, Nicky, changing from fashion, how a snap of your dog can be good in the office.
Oh, this is a really good little study from the University of New York saying that if you have a picture of your dog on your desk, you're a third less likely to argue with your colleagues, even if you think they've insulted you. But if your pet is a dog associated with aggression, like a pit bull, it has the opposite effect, which tells you something about all those dog owners of XL bullies, which I see around the streets near me all the time without muzzles on.
Oh, your dog says a lot about you. I think,
yes,
if you've got one, but having a nice picture on the desk.
A nice picture,
as long as it's a nice friendly pooch.
As long as it's a friendly pooch on your desk or on your phone, helps to just relax the tension.
So you could do one that you don't actually own. Get it like a library photo and put it there, and then maybe that'll stop people in the office having a go at you.
I think the idea is the emotional attachment spikes the oxytocin.
Wouldn't you be better with a picture of your children then? Or?
Oh, definitely not.
No.
That's not going to make you feel oxytocin. That's going to stress you to the max.
That would make me more aggressive.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that would cause trouble in the workplace for a lot of women.
Yes, it would.
Because they would think of you as defining yourself as a mother.
Which is what they do anyway when you talk about your kids.
Is that a bad thing?
Yes, because they think that you're not dedicated to the work, that you're obsessed with your family.
Really?
Mums are the most efficient people ever. I would always hire a mum over anyone else.
And then if they're not wearing heels as well, I mean, that is it. That's game over.
That's the end.
It's game over for the workplace.
Yes, I don't.
Dogs wearing high heels now.
Don't understand it. Maybe we're going to go shopping, Christo, and buy Cuban heels.
Cuban heels,
That's a date I will keep.
OK,
can we see the pictures?
No. All right, you two, thank you very much indeed. Good to see you.
Here's Jonathan Vautry with the weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. It has been quite an unsettled start to summer so far, but increasingly we're going to see things calm down as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. It's slow progress though, so we do still have this weather front first thing this morning, providing some outbreaks of rain, generally light rain for Northern Ireland and areas of western Scotland. It will slowly move its way southeastwards, spreading into parts of Northern England and Wales as we head into the afternoon. A few showers also developing for central England, those pushing their way into southeastern areas as we head into the afternoon. But between that, for a good chunk of England, there will be some sunny spells developing. And in that sunshine, it will be feeling pleasantly warm. Highs of around 24, 25 degrees Celsius is certainly not too bad for the time of year, and with light winds as well. We'll eventually see high teens developing for Northern Ireland, parts of central and eastern Scotland, particularly once the sunshine starts poking its way through into the afternoon and early evening here. Outbreaks of rain still continuing on and off for the Northern Isles throughout the day, and we will start to see the cloud building this evening across western Scotland as we get our next band of rain slowly pushing its way in here. Those spells potentially turning heavy over the hills for a time. Elsewhere tonight, though, it will be staying dry, some clear spells. A few mist and fog patches are possible, but it's going to be relatively mild. Temperatures in double-digit figures for most of us as we start off the new working week. Those outbreaks of rain still continuing for western Scotland as we move throughout the day, so it will be fairly damp and dreary to come here. A bit of a brisk breeze along those coastal regions. But with that high pressure starting to develop in, there'll be a decent number of sunny spells in there for the bulk of Northern Ireland, England and Wales. Temperatures actually climbing up on what we're going to be seeing today, now seeing 26 degrees in the southeast, but even 20 possible for central, eastern Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. That high pressure then become increasingly dominant, and so the sunshine will become more prolonged and those temperatures also continuing to climb. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I think there's a real culture shift when you leave the forces, which some people really struggle with. Not all do, many don't. You know, of those 2.1 million, not everybody's struggling with loneliness and isolation. But those that do really struggle to find their way, and then you get in that spiral.
They've been institutionalised. They've been in a with other men or other women for many years.
So you've lived in that community. You've felt valued. You've had purpose. You've had a great team and an identity, and then in some cases you don't. And when you lose that, some people struggle with that. And so Friday, as you saw, is an environment where you can bring that community back together again.
And it might actually be that some of the people to whom the army is an appealing option are already the kind of characters that want that security and they need that routine and stability, especially as younger men maybe. And so to have that taken away must be difficult. What more can be done, Richard, to help veterans when they do transition out of the army?
I think there's some good mechanisms in place for people to transition from all three services, Army, Navy, Air Force. But some people struggle, perhaps those who leave quickly as well. So if you leave quickly under a medical discharge or for disciplinary reason, you haven't necessarily left on your terms or within a time. If you were planning on serving 20 plus years and that's over in a flash, that's a game changer. And so you need that support network, family, friends, but also the MOD provide and also local community provides.
I was talking to one guy and I said, what's going on with your leg? And his wife said, he won't tell you. He lost his leg on duty, would not talk about it. He said, I was just doing my job. That's when it's incredibly humbling, and we saw a lot of this at VE Day. Bev and I were down at the Palace for 5.5 hours, and we met some extraordinary figures. And it does, you do feel a sense of humility in their presence, and then you see some of them are sleeping rough on our streets.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, happy Father's Day. Our top news this morning, the Prime Minister U-turns on grooming gangs.
A national inquiry will be launched into the abuse scandal.
But it comes just months after Sir Keir Starmer described calls for a national inquiry as jumping on a far-right bandwagon.
So will victims of men like this finally get the answers they want and some action?
The Prime Minister, the Home Secretary and the Safeguarding Minister have all said earlier this year that we do not need a national inquiry. Now Baroness Casey says we do. Has she found something new, or is she just acting on information that was already in public domain?
Also today, tensions soar as RAF jets are deployed to the Middle East amid fears of all-out war. It comes as multiple casualties have been reported in Israel in the latest wave of missile strikes from Iran.
Well, very concerning scenes seen out of Israel this morning, with one apartment block south of Tel Aviv suffering a direct hit. Dozens of people are believed trapped under the rubble.
Building British. The government will tell companies they must prioritise workers from the UK if they want to win contracts to build roads, hospitals and power plants.
Yesterday's thundery start to the weekend today offers something a touch calmer. Join me later for all the weather details.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Just before we crack on with all the big serious news today, it is Father's Day and we've been asking for your messages and pictures. So let's kick off from this picture that's been sent in by Susie. And she says, "Happy Father's Day to my wonderful 96-year-old dad, Arak." It's a lovely picture of him, lovely grey suit. He's a Holocaust survivor and he's dedicated his life to telling his story, so we never forget. He's an inspiration to many. He was given an MBE for the work he does. I am so proud of him and all that he gives. And a whole selection of older pictures of him as well. And it's fantastic. It's Holocaust survivors are incredible people. And actually, they're the stories that we do need to hear.
Yeah, but celebrate Father's Day today. My goodness, well done. This is from Sue, sending all my love to heaven today. For my beautiful late father. Happy Heavenly Father's Day, Dad. Love you so much and miss you.
And a similar message from Denise, who's missing her dad, Dennis Brown, who passed away back in 1973. Very much missed by all the family and thinking of him on this day. And a lovely picture of him in his uniform.
This picture of me and my dad together on my wedding day in 1973.
So
I think that was from
that's Denise
as well.
So he must have passed away shortly after you got married.
Oh, yes, that's sad.
Ah, dear. But at least beautifully remembered, 52 years on now? But there you go. Keep thinking of your dads today.
Lovely to have those photographs, isn't it?
Well, it is.
Yeah,
it is
very
indeed.
much for that.
Right, let's crack on then, because it is a major story, an absolute 180-degree U-turn from the Prime Minister as he announced a national inquiry into grooming gangs.
Now, it all comes now in response to Baroness Casey's recommendation. She's been undertaking what they called a national audit into the scandal.
The Conservatives and Reform are now demanding Sir Keir Starmer apologise because he rejected the move only a few months ago, instead saying 5 councils should set up their own investigations.
Yes, the government dismissed calls at the start of the year, claiming a 7-year inquiry had already been done by Professor Alexis Jay.
Well, we're expecting the Casey report to be released maybe as early as tomorrow and to link the scandal to men of Pakistani origin.
Well, Charlie Peters, our national news reporter, is with us now, and you've been doing so much work on this for how many years now?
I don't want to say. Too long.
Yeah, too long, yeah. And you've amassed so much evidence. And it looks as though this Baroness Casey's report must have some bombshell evidence in it in order to have forced Keir Starmer into his biggest U-turn, especially after he actually said, whether he misspoke or whether he really, really meant it, that people calling for a national inquiry must be far right.
Jumping on that band.
Well, I mean, he's not calling Baroness Casey far right now, is he?
As far as we're aware. No, but Baroness Casey, at the start of this process, told Sir Keir Starmer that she didn't think a national inquiry was necessary when she was appointed to conduct this audit in January. So perhaps she's learned something new while looking through this process. It was meant to take 3 months. It was meant to return before Easter. It's taken now over 5. And while she's been conducting that review, we put out our own audit at the beginning of last month. We showed the trafficking networks right across the country, put up a map showing the links between all the different towns and cities where we knew this had been going on. We showed that there'd been at least 400 convictions for this specific form of abuse. We also found there'd only been 1 deportation since 2011. And as you know, and Stephen, we've been running stories constantly in the 4 years since this channel was founded, speaking to survivors and their families and exposing new elements of this scandal, going further, I think, than other outlets have before, because we've showed levels of corruption, levels of collusion, levels of failure to engage with this crisis on a scale that previously was unthinkable. And we've also uncovered people who failed and have moved on to great positions elsewhere in the public sector and beyond. So I think what Baroness Casey has likely done over the last 5 months is she has changed her mind by virtue of engaging with all the information that's already out there. What this has required is not a brand new investigation to look into this to prove that this is needed. What it's required is for someone serious to tell political leadership, all this information is out there, you just need to reckon with it, by the way. And I think that's what happened in January. We had those 2 weeks of pressure and they sort of buckled and came out with those 5 local inquiries, which never would have happened if GB News hadn't revealed that the Oldham inquiry had been rejected, and that had led to that sort of 2 weeks of extreme focus on this issue. And I think another buckling has happened now because of the level of focus on this issue more widely.
I mean, the interesting thing with this, though, Charlie, which is what is staggering, is that it's been going on for decades and all that needs to be looked into. But the fact is that we know it is still going on, which means that this national inquiry now has to be not only set up quickly, but it's got to start delivering results quite quickly as well.
Completely. And one of the reasons why the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips, opposed the national inquiry previously is because they say we've had enough inquiries, we need action, not more investigation. You know, I happen to think the two go hand in hand. I think that knowledge gives strength to the arm. You cannot properly get action and deliver results and deliver justice if you don't know what you're targeting in the first place. In particular, when we haven't properly analysed those cultural, societal, ethnicity-involved issues that surround this crisis. I think this is the worst scandal since the Second World War in British modern history.
Yes, because it is criminal.
Precisely.
I mean, the acts that are involved are criminal acts. Children have been raped.
Yes.
In an organised fashion. Yeah. I mean, it's so disgusting. You can't get your head around it. And I know the Post Office inquiry was a complete scandal. It involved human misery. But this is criminal.
It's criminal at all levels. And that term you used, organised, is so important because I think what's not been delivered yet and what I hope a future judge-led inquiry might reveal is that these aren't just isolated, disparate gangs marauding in local areas. This is actually a set of organised networks around the country. We've shown through our trafficking map, for example, that many of these abusers know each other and that girls are procured from town to town. We always talk about Rotherham and Rochdale, and we always talk about the West Midlands and Telford in particular. No one talks about London. But we've shown through our map and our research published last month that many girls in the Oxfordshire grooming abuse were trafficked to London. Girls from Sheffield and South Yorkshire were also taken down to the capital. We know about girls being trafficked and abusers moving around as far as the northwest down to Plymouth on the south coast of England. So we know how widespread this is. It's time for the authorities to reckon with it as well.
And the other element of this, which is utterly disgusting and very disturbing, is that it's a remarkable situation where not only is it rape against children, it's a situation where when it has been looked into, there's an alarming number of cases where the children are blamed for what's going on.
Yeah, two of the most disturbing elements of this, I think, are not only the criminalisation of children, but also how children born from abuse, and there are many of these girls, fell pregnant in the most horrific fashion, not knowing who the father is because the number of perpetrators was so large.
And they grew up believing that maybe that was a normal childhood.
Right, they were groomed. And this is why I use the term grooming, and I'm very keen on it. Many people criticise the channel sometimes for using the term grooming gangs, but I think the grooming model of exploitation is really key. And the states, just going back to those children, they have given those fathers parental rights to visit those children in some cases. So if we're still doing that as recently as a decade ago, how can we possibly say we've gotten to grips with this issue? We don't know what caused it. We don't know the drivers. I have my theories, of course, but I want a proper investigation to get to the bottom of it. And until that happens, it's been ordered now. Will it deliver? Perhaps we might finally get those answers.
All right, Charlie, thank you very much indeed.
Can I suggest you're going to have to keep behind them, aren't you?
Yeah, the hard work starts now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Camila Tominey's got her show at 9:30 this morning. This is going to be a hot topic, Camila, and at a time where there's a lot going on.
Fascinating to listen to Charlie there. Yes, I'm going to be speaking to Darren Jones, who's the Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Of course, we want to ask him about Britain's current economic figures, but equally, it is interesting that it was quite recently that Keir Starmer said that anyone who was calling for a national inquiry into grooming gangs was, quotes, jumping on a far-right bandwagon. I mean, I want to know what's changed. I'm sure the response will be, well, he's read Louise Casey's report and therefore he has concluded. Why has it taken this long? I mean, it's thanks to some of the journalism that Charlie and others have done at GB News to bring a lot of this back to light after it was initially flagged back in 2011 by Andrew Norfolk, now sadly deceased. You know, why has it taken the Prime Minister this many months, with all of us campaigning? I mean, I can't think of anyone in the country who doesn't think it's a good idea. The excuse given was, oh, it might take too long. I'm going to be asking Darren Jones as well, what's the timetable on this now? Because this has been going on for years. We've got, actually, funny enough, some of the perpetrators in prison being treated better than some of the victims. I've spoken to survivors who have said, well, we didn't get any mental health support. We didn't get any educational support like some of the prisoners have while they've been behind bars. So we'll certainly be discussing that. Of course, we're going to be discussing the situation in Iran. Are we on a war footing? What's happening? Because the Prime Minister's talking about de-escalation, but we know that those RAF jets have been sent to the Middle East. What's going to be happening there? And, of course, with Darren Jones, we do need to speak about the economy shrinking immediately after Rachel Reeves delivered that spending review, claiming that everything was going swimmingly with the British economy. Also speaking to Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor. And on the issue of the Middle East, we've got the Israeli ambassador to London in, Zippy Hodovli, who will obviously be taking us through whether they think that they are, well, responding proportionately, not just to Iran. What's the end game here? Are they confident they are going to wipe out their nuclear weapons capabilities? But, of course, also talking about the conflict in Gaza. So a lot to cover on today's show.
Great. We look forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, Camilla, thanks very much indeed. Let's just bring a little bit of breaking news, should we, at 12 minutes past 9. The Prince and Princess of Wales marking Father's Day by posting some new pictures of the family. Lovely shots in a tweet with a message of Happy Father's Day, Papa. We love you. The sign-off from George, Charlotte and Louis. Prince William with his children against a tree, his arms wrapped round Princess Charlotte and Prince George, while Louis stood in the middle. The photographs taken in Norfolk earlier this year in Anmer Hall. Very nice too.
Yeah, lovely. Happy Father's Day to Prince William. Right, to the 54321, £54,321. It's our Great British Giveaway. Here's how to take part.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come for you, tensions soar as RAF jets are deployed to the Middle East amid fears of all-out war. We'll bring you all the very latest on what's going on between Israel and Iran in just a moment.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
9:18 now. RAF jets and military assets are being deployed to the Middle East following Iran's warning that the UK and its allies will be targeted if they help stop missile attacks on Israel.
Overnight, the two states have continued strikes on each other. Iran's president has threatened a more severe response.
Well, that all coincides with world leaders gathering in Canada for the G7 summit, from where our political editor Christopher Hope sent this update.
The G7 in Canada is all back to the world stage. He said overnight to us that Canada is an independent and sovereign country and a much valued member of the Commonwealth. That needs to be said because Donald Trump covets this country as the 51st state of the United States of America. And over all that, the big issue here for the world leaders is what's happening in Iran and Israel. Overnight, the UK has sent RAF Typhoons to protect assets in the Middle East. It is getting very, very tense on a global stage, and that will dominate the G7 when it starts in earnest tomorrow.
Well, let's talk now to our Home and Security editor, Mark White, who's got breaking news to bring us, I think, on the casualties involved. But also, Mark, I mean, would the president of Iran actually have the temerity, risks so much in attacking our bases, ours and American bases in that area?
Well, of course, they've done it before, not necessarily UK bases, but certainly US interests in the region. And actually on that, we can report that a drone that was heading in northern Iraq towards, we're told, the US consulate in Erbil was shot down by the US overnight. So some real concern. That's why, of course, we had in recent days an evacuation order for non-essential personnel in those US missions, consulates in the Middle East, and also heightened security around the bases. You're looking at the images from last night, incredible images again of ballistic missiles raining down on central and northern Israel. They are not used to this in Israel. They have a very effective layered missile defense system in Israel, which has been so effective over the years in dealing with threats of rockets and other munitions coming from Hamas in Gaza or from Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. But when you're dealing with ballistic missiles, then a number get through, and the devastating effects are there for you to see on your screen. This is Bet Yam, which is a city in the metropolitan south of Tel Aviv, an absolutely appalling scene of apartment blocks struck by a ballistic missile, a total collapse of one of those apartments. The death toll currently 6 from that particular apartment block strike, but we're told that at least 20 others are still buried under the rubble. 2 bodies were pulled from the rubble about an hour and a half ago. A survivor has also been pulled from the rubble, though, so there is hope that people could be, especially if they're in those reinforced sort of air raid shelters within the building, they may have survived even the collapse of a building. But in the north as well, in northern Israel, more destruction, homes targeted there, with another 4 people from one family in this airstrike also killed. We're told, and this is incredible, the figure, that there could be upwards of 200 people injured in Israel. And the real fear is today that the death toll is just simply going to climb. There will be a response, and a very significant response, from Israel to Iran. In fact, overnight they continued their bombing mission, targeting an oil storage installation in Tehran itself, other fuel depots, nuclear sites, and of course those missile launchers that can send these ballistic missiles onward to Israel have been targeted as well. But there's going to be, without a doubt, a very significant response aimed at Iran for what we saw last night. And very interestingly, just yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu, although Donald Trump is saying, threatening that the might of America might attack Iran if they attack the US, still saying that there's time to get round the table. But Benjamin Netanyahu said yesterday directly to the Iranian people, it's time for you to rise up. It's clear he wants to see regime change in Iran.
Well, interestingly, we had a leading Iranian opposition figure, Vahid Beheshti, on the show this morning. I mean, he seemed confident that actually this is what the Iranian people want. Now, it's difficult to say from this outside perspective, isn't it? But there's always a danger when it comes to regime change as to what moves in its place.
Yeah, listen, there's no doubt there is a significant percentage of the population would love to see the back of the Iranian regime, but we'd be foolish, I think, to think that they are not still popular amongst a large proportion of the population as well. And as you say, if you get regime change, be careful what you wish for, because you don't know what's coming next.
OK, Mark, for now, thanks very much indeed.
Yeah. And obviously we'll keep you up to date on all the news from that area throughout the day.
We will. That's it from us. I'll see you tomorrow. But up next, Camila Tominey.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there. Very good morning. This is your GB